then I gave a speech, and I said, well, congratulations to all of you. You're all graduates. Sometimes some of you think, well, I just made it. And other people think, well, I'm the smartest in the class. And you will all have your ideas about things. But, in the end, it doesn't make much of a difference. There are people here who are maybe the smartest now, but when they go to university, they don't have their own initiative. They're smart at certain things, but they have no what is it? They don't show any new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
They just can copy things very quickly. They can learn other people's stuff very quickly, but they don't have original ideas. And then there are people who are not very good at copying things, but they have their own original things, ideas. And once you go into a society, it's completely different.
Yeah.
You will find out that people who are some of the people you thought were really stupid will be huge successes, and some people who you believe are very smart, they will amount to nothing. And this will happen to you too. So all of you, the only sure way to succeed is by really applying yourself and finding something that you really love, and then put all your effort into it. And if you do that, then you will succeed, because you do something in your life that you really love, and you're going to succeed. You can work 12 hours, 14 hours, 20 hours a day even for that, because you love doing it. And so you will succeed. So I hope all of you will really put your very best into it and succeed. Cheers. That was basically my speech. Okay, let me take this off. You're not that bright tonight or today. So
I don't look as
usually
bright.
You're this bright. No. Usually you're this bright young star. But today you don't look that bright. What's going on?
I don't know. I'm getting old, probably.
Well, okay. Technically, you're older than yesterday.
I am. I think so. Yeah, probably. I mean, it depends on which way you look at it, but probably from the main.
Time is a human concept, I think.
Yes.
But
some might argue it's it's a construction. It's not real. It's made up.
Everything is made up. It's all in our mind. The Matrix.
Yeah, Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man. I think I'm gonna start off this conversation with a quote that I really, really like, because this is my first English podcast, and so I think it's kind of worthwhile to start it off with the quote of one of my favorite books, or actually my favorite book and one of my favorite quotes. And I hope this can set the tone for our discussion and the podcast. And so I'm gonna go ahead. Knowing others is clever. Knowing oneself is enlightened. Conquering others exhibits force. Conquering self is indeed powerful. One who knows satisfaction is rich. One who perseveres has discipline. One who knows where they are endures. Then, even dying, one cannot perish. Let's linger. Let that linger in the air for a second. It's I really love the book. It's a Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu. It's a very ancient text.
Oh, that guy.
That guy.
Okay,
exactly.
that guy. Yeah.
that guy. And
Uh-huh.
so from that ancient wisdom, I'm gonna make a strange turn and introduce my guest for today's podcast, if you don't mind. Today's guest is RobvanZeijst, who's basically like 1/3 as ancient as that book. I hope that's somewhat correct. And he's 3
Um,
times European champion. He is basically the best that theoretical physics has to offer. And he's a co-founder of the Marine Foundation, I just found out. So we're going to talk about that and find out what the heck is that. And he was living in Japan basically from his early 20s, as far as I know, for more than 30 years. So we're definitely going to talk about that a little bit. And yeah, he's a definitely interesting person that I had the honor of meeting a couple of times in my life, and I think we get along quite well. And yeah, even though we also often have political discussions, even though it's not even though, because I think these are usually quite fruitful, despite the cultural what is it, flawed discussion culture. I think we are maybe, like the discussions between us are a rare exception in that frenzy, and even when we disagree, we can have a fruitful discussion. So I'm very happy to welcome Rob van Zeist.
Jonas, this is a very nice welcome, a very nice introduction. I've seldom heard a nice introduction like this, and well, thank you for having me.
Great, man. I'm really looking forward to this. So let's get right into it. I would like to know, as I guess one main focus should be the Go game, because that's what you're known for, and that's, I guess, also what I'm somewhat known for, and that's what we both love. So how did you get into it? Like, how did that journey start for you? And yeah, what were the main moments in your life that created that movement that persisted
Right.
until this moment?
Well, okay. Let me tell you. Well, I always used to like playing games. I guess I was always playing games with my father. Even I think I started playing chess with him when I was 6 or something, and all kinds of other games. And then at the age of 8, I had a little bit of an accident, and I fell on my arm, and I broke it.
Oh,
Okay, yeah. And my father, he had an accident around the same time, and so we were both home. And well, so we played some chess, and then, but I could never win. I just couldn't win. I guess. Well, I didn't know at the time, but later I found out that since the age of 13 or 14, he was the chess champion of his school. It's like a gymnasium.
He didn't tell you. He was like, "Yeah,
he never told me.
I don't know about this game either. We're gonna play it here." Oh, you lose. You suck.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, I don't think he was a really good teacher. But anyway, then I kept losing chess and checkers and all those games. And then he said, I think he kind of sensed that I was kind of fed up with it. He said, "Oh, I got this other game that I've played, a couple of times with my older brother and a couple of other people, and I don't really know it either, but I played it a couple of times. We can try that." Okay, so that turned out to be Go. Right, it was a very old board, like very thin, like this.
Yeah.
And it looked green. with very flat plastic stones, like black and they were black and vaguely white. If you do your best, it looks white. Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Anyway, it was kind of yellowish.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he taught me the rules, and we started playing the game, and I beat him.
Nice.
It's like, what? You know, we couldn't believe it,
Yeah.
or at least I couldn't believe it, but I was so happy.
Yeah.
You know, I could beat my father. Come on, everybody here.
Nice.
And so I was very, very happy. Mm-hmm.
That's a good catalyzing moment, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're ever gonna have children, don't beat them too much, you know.
Yeah.
If you want to play Go, if you want to teach them Go, don't, you know, just don't win too often. I mean, you should win of it up, obviously, sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know, it's important that you let the kid win a lot, and that's why I play Go and not chess, because my father beat me all the time. So yeah. So hey, there I am.
So basically, Go is the easier game, confirmed, right? That's why we play it. That's the real reason for all chess players out there listening to this. You know, just loop this part of the conversation to eternity and be like, yeah,
exactly. Well, yeah.
That's why they play Go.
That's why I play Go.
That's nice, man.
So I started playing when I was 8, and but then the first about 4 years, I only played with my father. And at the age when I was 12, somebody started a Go club in our town. And I was the first member. We went there, and I immediately became a member.
Yeah.
And my father was, I think, the second member. And then there were maybe like 15 people or something.
Oh, cool.
And so we started, and so the strongest person who was giving the course, he started, well, he gave some explanation. And he was like, I think about 7 or 8 Q. And half a year later, I could beat him.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, I mean, it's, you know, I probably have some talent.
Yeah.
But really wanting to win, you know. I mean, you really have to have that desire.
The competitive spirit, let's say. Yeah, that's nice. How was the time with your father? Like playing 4 years just with your father? Like, was it that you were similarly strengthened, or was it that at some point he would always lose and would take handicap, or would you always like how was the strength distribution between the two of you?
Okay.
If you remember.
Yeah, the first 10 games turned out to be we scored 5-5.
Nice.
And the next
that's good
10 games we grouped them 10 games at a time.
Ah, funny. So you basically discovered Jubango without maybe knowing about it.
Yeah, exactly. We played a Jubango from the very beginning. Yeah, and I guess we played about 50 games within 1 week.
Oh wow!
And yeah. So it was cool. 5-5, then 6-4 in favor of me, then 7-3, and again I think 9-1, and then again back to 6-4 or something. And well, you know, so we played more than 300 games. I think 400 games in total.
Cool. That's nice.
So that was our, you know, father-son relationship, you know.
Yeah,
playing Go.
interesting. Why? I mean, that's a good relationship, kind of. If
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it's fun, if it's fun for both.
Oh, we did other things too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's also good. Yeah.
Mm.
I think what you said a second ago, basically, about like you sometimes have to lose with children, right? I
Yeah.
think that's like a really important point. Like, but I think it's more complicated than that. Like, because you shouldn't lose randomly. I think you shouldn't lose like, okay, I'm gonna lose 1/3 of the game. So, oh, this is the third game. I'm gonna lose. Like I think what you should do, or what I feel like I should do, like what's my sense of it is, you should see when they get to their limit, or even go beyond their limit a little bit, and find that right timing to lose, basically. Like to give them that feeling of achievement at the right timing, where also it is in parallel with their performance, right? That's my feeling of because then also it doesn't seem unfair, like because they might subconsciously pick up on the fact that they are playing better than they usually do. And so if they lose, that it's like resentful, and then they win when they play badly. And I think then subconsciously they will pick up on like, that doesn't feel right. Like something doesn't feel right. Like they might not be able to articulate, right, like what's happening, but I think they are smart enough to pick up on these. So one has to be really careful. So it's like it's an interesting meta game for me when I play with children, to like figure out when to lose and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm afraid you overestimate their ability to
Mm-hmm.
to see the difference. They're just mostly children are just very, very happy when they win. Of course, it
Mostly,
shouldn't be
yeah.
an unfair win. Probably they don't catch on usually.
The
So
children that
they're
I've
just
played
happy.
with often catch on,
But
actually.
they're happier. They're happier. They're happier, of course, if they feel well. Actually, if they're very happy. And so this goes against what you just said. So you can easily let your, if you feel they deserve to win, it's about time they win. You can get yourself tricked, and they will be very happy, I think.
I think it depends on
Don't
the child,
agree.
maybe. Like I've definitely had experiences where I did it badly, and I saw in their eyes, basically, or in their demeanor, that they knew I let them win, and that was not very
Uh,
helpful to them. Like they weren't very happy. Like they were also not like, fuck you, but I could see that they weren't as happy as they were when I did it well, when I did it in the right fashion, or like because you can also, like, they do an Atari on like 10 stones, and you don't answer, and they take them, and they are like, this doesn't usually happen, like this kind of thing. And they like the children that I
right,
played
right,
with,
right, right, right.
they can pick up on it. Like I have
Okay,
to
okay.
make smart mistakes, like, and I have
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
choose the right spot. But yeah, maybe it's not the most important thing. I do respect your hypothesis
Well,
there.
well. Let me um, tell you a story
Sure.
about a guy named Odyssey.
Uh-huh.
Odyssey used to be Kisei, was one of the strongest professionals in the world at the time. So this is like 25 years ago, maybe
Hmm.
30 years ago.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, he was Kisei maybe 25 years ago. I don't
Hmm.
remember exactly. But I played with him sometimes, betting on the game. We bet money on the game,
Uh-huh.
right? And so he told me that he would teach people at companies and so on, not kids, but people at companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he always tried to win by 1 point, right? And
Yeah.
there are two reasons for that.
Sure.
One is to make the other person feel that if he had done just a little bit better,
Yes.
I lost. Oh shit, just 1 point. Where did I go wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in his mind, he said, well, that makes people more eager to discover their own mistakes. Because just 1 point, anybody can discover a couple of mistakes of 1 point.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one, and the other one is it kept himself keen.
Yeah.
Because you have to constantly calculate, and you also have to take into account what kind of mistakes the other person can make, right?
Yes.
Because you have to compensate for that continuously.
Yes.
And especially when you're playing 3 people at the same time,
Yeah.
and you have to win with 1 point by 1 point at every board, that is really difficult.
Yeah.
So he thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
kept him keen
sure.
as well. Kept him interested because it's basically it's boring for these top professionals to go to companies and to teach all these people who have no talent whatsoever.
And
But,
maybe also no real interest beyond the personality hype around you.
That could be. But I mean, a good teacher has a personality.
Yeah.
I think.
No, for
They have
sure.
a personality.
What I mean is
they got something to say.
Yeah, for sure. What I mean is that, for example, when I see Magnus Carlsen play at some economic event or something like a simultaneous against the people there, it feels like it's mostly around him as a personality, not really about the game. Like it doesn't seem like the people who are playing him are really deeply interested in the game. More so, they are interested in being able to say I played against Magnus Carlsen. And in these kind of circumstances, definitely your what becomes important to you changes.
Yeah, well, it's probably a bit of a status problem. Yeah. I mean, this goes to the heart of the matter, I guess. I mean, in those days, getting lessons by a top professional was a status thing, of course.
Yes.
And yeah, so I mean that makes perfect sense. But of course, they had to have some interest in Go because they were paying a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
So
no, I mean, I'm also doing, of course, a little bit of a disservice, like a bit of an exaggeration. Like, I would be sure that probably also many people in these conferences that I'm referring to are probably also at least a little bit interested in chess. So like, it's probably like it's a mixture.
Well, I guess. I mean, there's so many people who want to be perceived as being smart and intellectual, and chess is in our Western society. It fulfills that particular role. And in the East, in Japan and China and Korea, the same is true for Go.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that sense, it's you can think of it as having the same societal role. Mm-hmm.
I would like to add one more thing about the au revoir thing. I really like it. And I think one more thing which is important is not to lose. Like, because you don't want to, like you want to be close to losing basically, so that they might be more inclined to come back to you, right? Like I could imagine that being like an economic incentive of some sort, like because when they were close to winning, they might feel more like, I'm gonna try again next time. Maybe
of course. Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, if you beat them by 100 points every time,
Yeah,
which he
exactly.
probably could, I mean, then they would lose interest and he would lose his job.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. I mean, this is true for everything. When you teach people, don't teach them much beyond their ability.
Yes.
You know, just keep them keen. So just teach them just above their ability, or
Yeah, yeah.
just where they can understand it intellectually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's very
Mhm.
it's so I really love finding these fine lines between that, like when playing, especially when playing against children, because it's so difficult, like to find that fine line where, because sometimes you're like, oh, this is the only right move and I want to show them, but also this will crush their whole dreams in ever getting another living group on this board, and they will not resign, and so it will be a really futile time investment from this point on if I play this move. And so it's like a, you know, these kind of situations appear, and yeah, I love it when it's so
Right.
complicated to do the right thing in a way.
To do the right thing, my God. Are we talking morals, ethics now?
Okay, speaking of doing the
Do
right
the right
thing,
thing.
when
Yeah,
did you
there's a
decide to
course.
do,
There's a
when did you
course.
decide to do the right thing and study go religiously? Like when did the thought of like I mean, I'm just inferring here right now actually, of trying to become really strong, the best European player. When did that become your goal or your mindset towards the game?
I don't think I ever had the goal of trying to become a European champion.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to win the next game.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's good.
and well, of course there were like personal things that I wanted to beat this one particular person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that happens. Um, you know, basically you have your own um, like the people who have about the same strength, who are your competition,
Yeah.
right? So your competitors, and they're also your friends,
Yeah.
your enemies and your friends at the same time.
Yeah.
Your frenemies, frenemy, you know that game.
Yeah.
And conculega. Oh, that's a Dutch word. Sorry, never mind. That's competition. People who are compete at the same time. They're your competitor and your friends at the same time.
Sure.
But you need these people. You know, they make sure that you get stronger.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't have competition, it's I guess it's almost impossible to get stronger.
Yeah.
So I had a whole lot of people at the time that I wanted to beat, and well, they just happened to be the top of Europe. That's all.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so, but I remember after becoming European champion. I mean, a long time ago, when I was 15, I played in the. I went to the first Go Congress in my life. It was when I was 15. It was in Rijswijk in the Netherlands. Happened to be there.
Mm.
It was 1976, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was completely different. There were only the European champion was there was a European championship between just the number one of every country.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
Okay, so there were only like 10 people or so playing it. And I remember in that championship, a German guy won, Isele. Maybe you know Isele, his name?
Isele.
Isele.
No.
No.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. No, okay. Well, he won.
I should
And,
you know, catch up on my Go history a little bit.
Right. So, and I remember at the time I thought, oh man, these guys are so extremely intelligent, so smart. And they looked very smart too. And I thought, I just want to be like that too. So I remember that thought. You know,
Sure.
and but I just liked the game, and but there wasn't a particular thought of trying to become European champion. Okay, being number one is fine. It is nice, of course. But when I became European champion, I remember thinking, well, uh, I'm still the same person, you know,
Yeah.
right? Well, you know, before that, you think this will be quite something, you know, and then when you do it, it's like, oh, well, what happened? I'm still the same guy, you know. Nothing happened,
Yeah.
and I kind of felt a little bit disappointed.
Yeah. Like most people. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like I think as a culture, we're not doing a good job of like explaining this, but this is like I've almost never heard anyone say the opposite story, but this story I've heard a million times of like people reaching the goal that they set out on, or even not a goal, but like even just something that they perceived as mm, impactful, let's say, for their own feelings about themselves, let's say, or their happiness or whatever, their fulfillment in life, and then getting there and being like, this doesn't help me. Like usually for money, I guess for people it's like money or something, you know, like rich people, like many
Mhm.
actors or like people that have crazy amount of money. They're like, yeah, I tried to be rich and then I was rich and then I was the saddest I've ever been because I was like, why am I not happy? Like I've got
Right, right,
everything
right,
I
right, right.
wanted to get to ever and now I have it and nothing has changed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's always the goal, the destiny, or the destination, and the journey,
Yeah.
right? And so I mean, if you focus only on the destination, um, you don't see anything. You don't see the destination. I mean, the journey. You
Yeah.
forget about that.
You're
And
not in the
so I
moment.
guess you're not in the moment, right? And you know, it has its merits because then when you're always in the moment, you can also feel the pain, and maybe you cannot stand the pain anymore because
Yeah.
I mean, there will be goals in your life where you will have to go through a lot of pain to get to that goal.
Yes.
And yeah, so if you only focus on the journey, hmm, that's a problem too.
Yeah.
So there has to be some balance, I guess.
Yeah, I think so too. I
Hmm.
think also basically when you're too much inside a moment, you can basically lose yourself in it and become very unproductive, let's say. And like goals can structure your life, and they inhabit a lot of the beauty. Like they inhabit a lot of that which we find meaningful.
Hmm.
But they also inhabit a lot that makes us miserable because they also inhabit stress and like and just being unfulfilled about where you are because you're too obsessed about where you're going. So I also think that basically to have goals, so to have something to aspire to be and to become and to push you forward is very important, but not to be so obsessed over them that you cannot accept where you are at the moment and you cannot accept yourself for your flaws and the ways you are not yet as you want to be, right? So yeah, that fine line is very important. So did you try to find that new goal, that new light at the end of the tunnel in Japan, or how did that decision come into existence?
Not exactly that way. I became European champion in 1981, and before that, I became Dutch champion. So, well, before that, we had this guy Ronald Slemper, and Ronald Slemper, maybe you don't know him either.
I heard about his name at some point.
Well, he's kind of a genius, and he was by far the strongest Go player, and he was like 1 or 2 years older than I. And so he was my role model. He was the guy I wanted to beat. You know, and so I that's why I'm, you know, that was why I was working so hard. However, he in 1981 he went to no, earlier that. Well, for a year he went to Japan, and he wasn't there, and he didn't play in the Dutch championship that he had won since he was 14 or 15, right? So I'd been winning it for like a couple of years in a row. Well, he had gone to Japan when he was 12 or something like that, 12 years old, and he went there for 3 months. And then when he was 14, he went there again for 3 months. When he was 15, again for 3 months, you know. So, and he was playing with Yoda. You know Yoda?
Yoda Norimoto?
Yeah, that guy.
Oh yeah, I played against him once.
You once played him, okay. Right. And he was the teacher. He was Ronald's teacher when he was in Insee, and I guess before that too. And so 1 year he had lessons by this Yoda guy, who was a prodigy at the time. He was only 15 or 16, and he was already 4 down at the time, I think.
For so, professional or for done?
Yeah, for a professional.
Yeah.
He was, and he became Meijin a couple of times. I think that's the only big title he had. Maybe 5 times, 4 times in a row. Anyway, the point was that Ronald Slemper was just, very, very strong.
Yeah.
And I could never hope to beat him. So, but then he left Holland for a year, and so it was my chance. I got my chance, and so I became Dutch champion. And he didn't play in the European Championship either. And I think 1 or 2 years before that, he was in the number. Oh, I'm getting a call. Hold on a second.
Sure. So where were we?
I guess
Ronald Schlemper wasn't there. You finally managed to become
so
Dutch
I got
champion.
my chance, and I used it. Right.
Yes. And so then you also became European champion.
Right. But because I became Dutch champion, I could participate in the World Championship for amateurs. And that's why I went there in 1982, in March, exactly on my father's birthday. And
on your father's birthday?
Yeah, on my father's birthday. And I said, well, can you imagine a better present?
Yes.
He started leaving. Well, but at the time I was studying physics, theoretical physics. But well, then I went to Japan, and I was originally going to go for just 3 weeks. And well, then I got there, and the chairman of the Dutch Go Association, he gave me some money, 1,000 guilders. It was a fortune at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 1,000 guilders is like what is it? 450 euro.
Mm-hmm.
Which looks like nothing, but it's like 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. And so that's 1982. It's like 39 years ago. It's like about 39 years ago that I went to Japan. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And anyway, he gave me 450 euro, and I was staying with people, with an amateur in Osaka.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went to the Kansai Kiin. We played a game with Hashimoto Shoji, was the strongest person in the Kansai at that time.
Mm-hmm.
9-dan professional. Was also a title holder. So, it was really nice. And then an amateur came up to me and he said, do you remember me? And I didn't. And he said, well, never mind. Maybe you don't remember because I lost. Huh? I said, I don't remember. And he said, well, he was at the European Championship. And there was a blitz tournament as well. And I beat him in the blitz tournament. And at the time, I never thought anything of it. But apparently, I was the only person who beat him. And he thought he had professional strength at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He regularly beat 2 to 5 professionals. He took lessons, and he had a bet with them. He only paid them if they beat him,
Mm-hmm.
right? And often he would beat them. So, so they really had to go out of the way to make enough money from him. So they really had to do their best. And so he was of professional strength. So he was really shocked when some random amateur from Europe could beat him,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I didn't remember. But then he said, well, I will teach you so that you can actually beat me. And so I stayed at his house with a guy called Ernst Novak,
Mm-hmm.
who was a top player in Europe at the time. I think he was Austrian champion at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And and we stayed there together. And he taught me every day. And I played Go with him every day.
Nice.
And he studied Buddhism at the university, the Kyoto University.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But he used to be a professor.
Uh-huh.
But then I think his wife, who used to be his student, she got a really good job she became the vice president of a hospital. And so she started really making a lot of money. And he said, well, in that case, I don't have to work anymore. I'm going to become a student then. I've done my job. I've educated you into a good job. And well, okay, now it's my turn.
Nice.
So that's really funny.
Yeah, that's a funny story.
Yeah. Right. And
so he started studying Buddhism. Nice.
Yeah, so when 2 or 3 times a week, some other professor would come to his house, and we would have dinner together. We would talk about all kinds of philosophical questions, economics, politics, whatever.
Nice.
So it was really extra interesting. And I stayed there for about a month and a half.
That's cool.
But I could never beat him. The best I did was, he was the kind of guy that I would win every fight. He could let me win every fight, and then I would still lose the game. It was just really frustrating. I couldn't understand how he did it, but he was so strong.
Yeah, that's good.
But he really understood the Fuseki.
That's nice. So he was a representative of Japan in that World Championship, or was
No,
he
he's
just there as a spectator, or
he was
like
just
how?
there as a spectator.
Okay.
This
And
is,
he was in the European Championship as just a
prior
player
to
from Japan. Just a
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
in those days there were a lot of top amateurs who had professional strength. And I think there was a guy called Murakami, and maybe two guys called Murakami. They're both like 5-dan professional. And so that's the next thing. I went back to Tokyo, and where I was introduced to a guy who spoke 7 languages fluently, and he just wanted to practice his English and his German. I spoke German with him. Yeah, my German was not really good, but that's fine. Ja, ich kann natürlich ein bisschen Deutsch reden.
Nicht schlecht, nicht schlecht.
Nicht schlecht, nicht schlecht. So and he had a second house about 60 or 70 kilometers from Tokyo. And I could stay there. And then in the weekends, he would come up, usually with a strong amateur, and we would play Go all day.
Oh, nice.
And during the rest of the day, the rest of the week, I would study Go, would play through old games by Shusaku and so, which I didn't understand at all. I mean, I was a 5-dan amateur at the time, but probably 2 stones weaker than I'm right now, maybe 3 stones weaker. It was the level of the European top players at the time.
Sure. I mean, basically, like the amount of knowledge has just exponentially increased from there, right? Like how much?
Especially the last couple of years. Since AI came along, it changed everything.
Yeah, that's for sure. I feel already like 2 stones weaker than 4 years ago, so I can relate to that.
But it's not true, probably.
Probably not. Hopefully not.
It's not true. No. You just had this self-confidence. And this is important. You have to have confidence.
Yes.
If you don't have self-confidence, it's, you're going to doubt everything you do.
Yeah, sure.
And that's horrible. That's terrible. I mean, it's good that you have that you don't know the truth. In that case, you don't know how weak you are. That's good.
Yeah. I think doubt is also important. So I would like put a cautionary sign on that phrase.
I doubt that statement. Can I doubt that statement?
Good job.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So that sounds really fun. Like to me, listening to that, like, yeah, that sounds like a good time to like study and have different people who, can give you maybe a bit of a different perspective on the game. Did you then become insei from there, or was it a long time?
Were it that easy? If it had been that easy, that would be nice, but no.
Yeah.
Um,
So back then it was
you
only
know,
for Japanese, or what was, or just very expensive, or what was the problem there?
No, there was another problem, which I didn't foresee at all. And I only found out much later that it was a problem. And it was my problem.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is, the people who could introduce me, who could make me an insei, were not my friends.
Mm.
You know, I didn't have any friends or friends of friends who could make me an insei.
Oh.
There were only a few people who could make you an insei, and you basically had to be a friend, or you had to have a recommendation by a top professional.
Mm.
And I guess Ronald Slemper, he was lucky. Well, he was lucky because he had the right connections. Somehow, I don't know how he got those connections, but he got the right connections, and he could become an insei for a year. And he became the #1 insei within a year. I think after 9 months or 8 months, he was the #1 insei. And then he was #1 insei for 3 months in a row. And said, okay, if you're anybody who can be the top insei for 3 months in a row, will turn professional automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, well, now you're professional. And he said, no, now I'm going back to the Netherlands. And the Nihonkin was really, really very angry with him for that decision. He was a traitor, you know, they viewed him as a traitor, somebody who could not be trusted. I heard about that much later, but you know.
Fascinating.
And
so he never became pro? Like that was basically the end of their relationship?
Yeah, because he came back, he just wanted to do it for 1 year. But he didn't tell them beforehand.
Yeah.
But it had been his plan all along. Because he wanted to become a doctor.
Oh.
So he came back and he started studying medical sciences. And he actually became a doctor. And now he lives in Japan again. And he passed the doctor exam in Japan. And he seemed to live in Fukuoka right now.
Interesting. Where is he from? Also the Netherlands, or?
Yeah, Netherlands. Yeah,
of course.
He was
That's
my
why you
big,
became Dutch champion. Oh my God.
My big inspiration.
I'm missing the story. What am I doing?
Yeah. Okay, you're getting older. That's, there was the theme of this conversation, was it?
Yes. See?
Okay.
See, now I even convinced you that I'm getting older. See?
I told you you're getting older. I told you we talked yesterday. You already sounded a little bit older today.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily more mature. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
And certainly no more wise, but older.
Just older, Anyway.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Never mind.
Okay, anyway. So Ronald Schlemper left, and so there was a vacuum, and then there was this bright star in RobvanZeijst that was there to take the spot.
Absolutely. And I thought I was very smart in those days. I thought I was really a real smart guy. And I was actually smart, but not as smart as I thought.
Sure. That's usually the problem of smart people, I suppose.
Well, one of the problems was that I had almost no introspection, and to get beyond a certain paradigm, you need to have introspection.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's also partly maturity. I mean, you can have introspection without being very smart, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
You
something
can
to
be
do
very
with.
smart without having introspection. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of wisdom and intelligence, and there's
Yeah.
there's usually an overlap,
Yeah.
but there can be mutual exclusivity, you know.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
meaning that you can have one and nothing of the other,
Yeah.
and the other way around, and the other way around.
Yeah.
You
For
know.
sure. For sure. And so you
Um,
were maybe too smart for your own good to become better a little bit.
uh, I didn't quite get that. No, don't worry. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So what happened next is that I stayed at this house, and I had a couple 450 euro.
Hmm.
I still had that same money because I didn't spend any money.
Wow, that's really cool. That's
Yeah.
good.
So well, I went to Japan with about 1,000 guilders, my own money, and the Dutch Co-Association gave me 1,000 guilders.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I guess
So you
the
used up
money
half the
was like,
money to the up to that point. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I guess so.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So um, all right. So I stayed there, but it was a small village
Hmm.
where I stayed. So you
Mhm.
had this house, second house, in a small village, and if I went out on the street, what would happen is like all these kids would come out following me. They just talking after me. Said, Gaijin, Gaijin, foreigner, foreigner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, it's kind of crazy, but that's what they did in those days. They'd never seen a white person in those days.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, now of course, I mean, maybe they would have seen a white person on TV, but in reality,
Yeah.
that's a completely different thing. So, and so I would stop, and then I would run, and then they would come back again, and they would run away again, and then, they would come closer and closer. He said, "Here, you can feel my hair, you know, or you can feel my skin." And they kind of liked that, but they thought it was very scary too. It was kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really funny. I
Yeah.
had a similar experience in China once with Oscar, whom you're
Uh-huh.
familiar with. Like
Yeah.
basically, we went to hike up a mountain, and that was really nice. And the mountain was much further away than we expected, so we had to walk for like an hour or something to get there, I think. And on the way
Mhm.
there was like a very small village.
Okay.
I think pretty poor people and very, very isolated, right? And they were sitting, like, there were a few of them, I think, sitting on the street somewhere, like not homeless, just like, I think just socializing with each other and old people. And they were looking at us, was like really, like you
Ooh.
could see it, you could see it that they like they were fixed on us, like they wouldn't, they
Uh-huh.
were like, oh, like
Right.
that really seemed like their first time seeing foreigners as well. So that was also a really interesting
Yeah.
experience and very nice actually. Like it was friendly interaction, and so yeah, I can
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
somewhat relate.
Yes. I mean, some people might be offended, but I wasn't offended. It was just,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, it was new for me too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's new for you guys, but it's new for me too.
yeah, for sure.
And yeah, there was another really crazy experience that I had in that village. I went into a store I wanted to buy something. I don't remember what, but went to the store, and there's this girl behind the counter, uh, and she ran off. She just ran off, screaming. Yeah. So I could buy anything there. So yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Different people
So,
react differently upon encountering a situation that's novel to them, I suppose. So
right.
there's children saying, "Hey, hug me," and there's people,
Yeah,
"I better
yeah,
run
yeah,
off."
yeah. She could deal with reality.
Yeah.
I guess denial.
I don't believe this.
Well, I guess I've had similar experiences, but quite different, but similar. That's like um, Japanese. That I talked to a Japanese, and that they talked to me back in English, in broken English, very bad English,
Uh,
and it takes them a while to understand, to figure out that I speak Japanese to them.
yeah.
Because it just doesn't register. I mean, this guy cannot speak Japanese. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Right. So,
But true.
but in
By
the
the way,
beginning,
when
it was
did you learn? When did you learn Japanese? Like, was it before you went to Japan, or was
no,
it
no, no, no.
basically learning trial and error?
I started learning. I had a booklet called "Teaching Yourself Japanese." It was
Uh-huh.
a series. So I had bought that in the Netherlands before going there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very bad at languages. At least at that time, I thought I
Yeah.
was bad at languages.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, but now you see, you even speak English as a German person.
That's true.
I mean,
That's crazy.
wow,
But
wow, yeah.
every other language but English, I had French at school and I had Spanish, and I
Mhm.
can really not speak any Spanish, and like except maybe hola,
Hola,
hola.
hola.
That's it.
Uh-huh.
Or I don't know, Espanol.
Una
Yeah, I can at least
español.
say Spanish in Spanish. So,
Oh,
that's
okay.
something. And my French is like limited to like 3 sentences, je suis une baguette,
Tu peux
and
parler le français?
ce n'est pas, je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas. Yeah, that's also
Je
one
ne
of
sais
my
pas. I don't know.
yeah, exactly. That's
Uh-huh.
like I always, when I speak in French, I just say that sentence over and over again.
Mhm.
That usually
Okay, and then
works out.
it works perfectly.
Yeah.
It's,
And then
and
people
then we
think I'm
know.
very smart because
Mm.
I'm very humble, they like ask me, what do you think about the economic crisis? And I'm like, je ne sais pas,
Je ne sais
but
pas.
with like a vigor, about it, with like
Mhm.
this feeling of like, I do know something about it, but I know that I don't know, and then they're like, ah.
Right.
So you don't need
Okay.
anything more than that, but yeah,
Mhm.
English somehow, in school I was really bad at English, but then I needed English for understanding certain things I wanted to understand, and so I learned English. But yeah, with
Yeah.
other
Well,
languages it didn't happen.
well, the same for me. I was bad at English, but then I needed English because I had to be able to read Go books.
Yeah.
All the Go books were in English.
Hmm.
So I became, I think I got my first Go book at the age of 14.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, it was really hard for me to understand the English.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I was not the worst student in my class, maybe, but, at the bottom
Mm-hmm.
In English. And a year later, well, I was maybe one of the top students in
Nice.
English, anyway. Now,
Yeah.
so, I mean, if you're motivated, you basically can do anything.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're not motivated, I mean, people don't know. They just think they're stupid, or they just think they can't do it. They have no talent, whatever,
Yeah.
and they keep this narrative for themselves. Tell themselves the same stuff all over and over again until they believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Victimhood
this
mentality
is,
is certainly a scourge on the planet, in my opinion. Like,
well, it's not just victimhood; it's just a narrative that you tell yourself.
yeah,
And
but I think often
it's
it's encapsulated in these kind of tropes of like I'm
right.
a victim because of this and that
But
makes
it
me
doesn't even
incapable
necessarily.
of breaking out of that paradigm. Like,
Yeah, but that's already assuming that somebody has so much introspection or self-knowledge that he thinks he's a victim. And most of the time, it's not even to that level.
Mhm.
They just don't know that they think they're a victim.
Yeah.
They just behave as a victim.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily articulated. Yeah, I agree with that. Like it might
Yeah,
just be more of a instinctual behavioral pattern that creates itself more or less.
it's mostly um, yeah, because of the environment. Very often because of parents.
Yeah.
You get thrown in that role. So yeah. Anyway, I so that's how I learned English, and later in Japan, that is how I learned Japanese years
Yeah.
ago. Because I had a really strong reason, a very good reason
Yeah.
to learn Japanese.
And how quickly would you say did you pick up on it? Like at the start, did you need like the first like when you were living with that amateur but really strong amateur? Um, was it like you were speaking in a lot of like hand language and stuff like that about
He
Buddhism
spoke
or?
he spoke English.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. He
Okay.
spoke English, and his wife spoke English, so.
Hmm.
And they regularly had visitors from Europe and America,
Ah, okay.
and yeah.
Get it.
So that was kind of different. And the people who came there, they were all professors and the intelligentsia, the intellectuals, I
The
guess.
ivory tower.
Oh yeah,
You were
absolutely.
immediately adopted into the ivory tower.
Academics. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most of them could speak at least rudimentary English.
Hmm.
And they all had their own discipline.
But that's also
Um,
funny. Like that also creates a somewhat of a hero's journey in the difficulty level in terms of language in your adventure in Japan, right? Because basically the difficulty was almost like parallel uh, to your level, I suppose. Like you couldn't speak Japanese, and luckily enough, there was this
yeah,
guy speaking English. And then the more and more
yeah.
you learn Japanese, then the more and more you got into circles where that was also necessary. That's interesting
Uh,
as well.
well, I play Go, so if you go to a Go club there, chances are, well, right now it's different maybe, but in those days nobody could speak English,
Yeah.
and it was not
Still now
common
even.
even now.
Yeah.
But more people now, maybe 10 times as many people now speak English as in those days.
Yeah. And even now
So
it's difficult. So yeah, I can
mm,
imagine.
yeah. So where was
About
what
basically
did we have
getting
here?
into the Insei thing and how difficult it
Oh
was.
yeah, the Insei thing. Right.
Hmm.
So okay, so I was staying at this place, and I then, well, I guess they thought, oh, I came to the Nihonkin like once a week
Hmm.
or something, because I couldn't afford to come more often, because it was like 3,000 yen or something, 4,000 yen,
To be
just
there or
for
to get there.
to get there, to
Hmm.
back and forth.
Yeah.
I had to take first. I had to take a bus for like 3/4 of an hour, and a train for more than an hour,
Wow.
and then a subway for like half an hour. So it's like two and a half hours going there, and then 2.5 hours going back,
Yeah.
and it was a chunk of money as well.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't do that every day.
Yeah.
And so at the Neon Keen, they kind of caught on to my situation. And then I got invited by Mr. Izumitani, who was a 6-dan professional at the time.
Uh-huh.
And he was one of the few professionals who could speak English.
Oh.
Kobayashi Chizu, Kobayashi Chizu,
Yeah.
she had come to Europe regularly. She could speak English, but I didn't have a good relationship with her because I made a joke,
You
a
made
very
a joke.
inappropriate,
Oof.
yeah, very horrible joke, very bad joke. Yeah, and because she was commenting on my game, and she said, well, she said that my game, my move was terrible, or something like that.
Yeah.
And bad style or whatever. And I don't have good style even now.
Yeah.
I still don't have good style.
Same here.
But in those days, it was even worse.
Yeah.
But I played a really bad style move, and she said, "Oh, that's horrible. That's bad," something like that. And but she couldn't reject it. I mean, the result was good for me, and she just couldn't find a good move against it. And then I said, well, maybe you can learn something in Europe, which is really bad, of course. I mean, I meant it as a joke, but she obviously thought I was very, very arrogant, and I was a horrible guy. So I was, a persona non grata. So,
as you should be.
As I should be. Yeah. So Kobayashi Chizu, I couldn't expect anything from her.
Yeah.
She later helped a lot of Europeans to come to Japan and to become insei. But I obviously shot myself in the foot. So that didn't happen to me. Anyway, this guy Izumitani, professional 6-dan, he invited me to stay in his house, and he took me around.
Wow.
To his Go clubs, and I was, he showed how he was teaching people, and I could play his students and so on. And well, he would practice his English with me, and he could speak English quite well. He was one of the very few professionals who had actually gone to university. So he was a rarity.
Similar to when I was in
days.
Japan, I also met one person like that. That was Ichiriki Leo.
Yeah, he speaks English, I guess.
He speaks very good English, and he also went to university.
Yeah. Right, yeah, he goes to Waseda. He went to Waseda. Waseda. He went to Waseda University. It's one of the best universities in Japan.
Yeah, very possible. Yeah,
so,
and he's a really nice guy. Actually, I really enjoyed.
I went to Waseda University myself. To do some Japanese lessons there.
Nice.
To take a Japanese course. Yeah.
Okay, so
but that was much later.
So you stayed at Izumi's house. Was that basically part of the Insei experience then, or?
No. It was nothing yet. Nothing yet.
Okay.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, second night or the third night, we went out to karaoke.
Mm.
And
Nice.
that was close to the Neon King. And guess who was there? He was singing, and and I thought it was pretty bad. And but everybody was applauding.
Mhm.
And I had no social manners in those days,
Yeah.
so I guess I didn't applaud. But anyway, I thought, and then I thought, huh? Who is that guy?
Mm.
And then I thought, well, maybe it's this guy from this picture I saw, Sakata.
Ah.
And Sakata was, one of the top professionals in the top players in the world
Mhm.
of the 20th
Sakata
century.
Eo, right?
Sakata Eo, yeah.
Mhm.
Was one of the best, the strongest professionals ever
Mm.
in the 20th century.
Yeah.
He's something like Shin Seo. What is it?
Shinjin
Jinseo.
Seo.
In Jinseo right now.
Yeah. Wow.
Or Guje or something. Because they win almost all of their games.
Yes.
Shin Jinseo, he won. Maybe he has streaks of like 15 or 20 games that he wins in a row.
It's quite remarkable. And
In those
especially
days,
against the
Sakata,
top players in the world, right? So it's like
Sakata was at the same time, was like that in those days. I think he had 6 out of 7 maybe he had also, no, it's 6 out of 7 titles.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
And he would have winning streaks of 20 games. I mean, it's not appreciated now because it was such a long time ago.
Yeah.
And why would you appreciate history? I mean, we
Let's
live in it
all
now
make
and here.
celebrations for Sakata Eo.
But he was
Maybe
really,
at some point.
he was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that night, we went home, and that night, we got a telephone call, and it was the Neon King through an interpreter of the Neon King, and he invited me to come over to the Neon King to talk to Mrs. Sakata, not to Mr. Sakata, but to Mrs. Sakata. And okay. So I went there, and she offered me a job.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the job? Well, Mr. Sakata had a Go club in the center of Tokyo, and she offered me the job, and I would get some money, not much, but some pocket money,
as what?
And teaching Go.
Mm.
So I had to go there every Monday through Friday, teaching Go.
In Japanese or in English?
I couldn't speak Japanese, basically.
Yeah.
So, and at the same time, they would pay for an apartment in the neighborhood.
Ah, that's nice.
And they gave me a bicycle.
Oh.
So by bicycle, I could go to the Neon King. It was the club where it was it was kind of a mixture of a hostess club.
A what club?
Hostess club.
Hostess?
Like where all these women are. They're women, and they are just there for company.
Like a maid cafe kind of thing, or?
Yeah, something like that. But then,
okay.
Like a maid cafe.
Like it's not sexual. Like it's not a strip club. Or
no,
okay.
no. Nothing like that.
Okay.
It's just they keep your company,
Yeah.
And so it was basically for rich businessmen who wanted to go to the Go club, play some Go, relax a little bit, have a chat with one of these women, and drink some more, and do some karaoke and that kind of stuff. You
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
and eat a little bit, or yeah. So, well, of course, obviously, I said yes.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like quite an amazing offer. Like
But
giving
of
you an
course, I didn't know what I
apartment
would.
and a bicycle, being closer to the Neon Kien, like sounds good.
Yeah, so it was about 2 kilometers from New Kien and 2 kilometers from my job.
Nice.
So yeah, after that I could go to the Neon Kien more often, and I played Go every night. But these were just mostly amateurs. But a host of top professionals would come to the club too. For example, Cho Kun, Takumiya, Ishida, yeah, Ohira, lots of top professionals, 9 non-professionals. And they would come and drop by, and they wouldn't play Go mostly. Although I played Go with a 9 non-professional there, Tozawa, who gave me 3 stones, and I had no chance. Yeah.
Happens. How was the job there? Like, was it fun? Was it good, or was it stressful, or like, what was the
No,
environment?
It wasn't stressful at all. Not in the beginning, anyway. But of course, you have to drink, and you're supposed to be good company, right? And I was basically a little bit of an artist, I guess. So
sure.
So yeah.
So it was a little bit socially awkward sometimes.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I didn't know much about Japan, and I didn't know much about the world either.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just a physics student, just playing Go.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do I know?
Yeah, all these abstractions, nothing really. No real connection to the real stuff.
To the real world. No. Yeah. So these were all, most of them were successful businessmen. So, so I was just naive. But okay. Anyway, they liked talking to me. And luckily, they were much better at social interaction than I. So, so they would ask me questions, and Yeah.
That's sweet.
So I think that happened in about June. So I went there on March the 13th. I arrived there on the 14th. And I guess the end of May, I started working there, I guess. And couple of weeks later, 2 weeks later, I had to go to Korea. And guess who? I went there with a Spanish guy. Oh no, a guy from Argentina who had also participated in the World Championship. And because we had to go to Korea to get an extension for our visa.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and so what is the name of this guy who was like okay.
Is it
Cho Hoon-hyun.
Oh, okay.
You know this guy?
No.
Okay, he's
you mean Cho Hoon-hyun?
Yeah, I mean Cho Hoon-hyun. Yeah.
Yeah. The wasn't he also the teacher of Lee Chang-ho?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, of course.
But at that time, he was maybe a 6-dan or 7-up pro, and he could speak Japanese. Oh, by that time, I could say a couple of words in Japanese, and I could say a couple of phrases, I guess. Um, so I could have more or less a basic conversation, very, very basic conversation. Yeah, and so we went there together. This Argentine guy, and Joe, he helped us with all kind of things. And so we got our visa, and we stayed there for 4 or 5 days to receive our visa. And we went to some clubs, with these girls, like the same idea that they had in Japan. And the same, they basically copied the culture of Japan in many aspects. Of course, you can't ever tell the Koreans that, but okay. And you can't tell the Japanese that the Koreans are very much, Korean culture is very close to Japanese culture. Can't tell them that. But
maybe it's wrong.
Well, it is probably wrong, but from a Western perspective, they're very close. Yeah.
Maybe.
So,
I mean,
for example, Germans and Dutch, they're completely different, right? Right?
Of course.
You understand that? Yeah, very, very different.
I mean, obviously, look at you.
We can barely understand each other, right?
Yeah, barely.
But from a Chinese perspective, we are exactly the same, right? No?
Which we kind of are. So yeah, but
yeah. But but the same is true for Koreans and Japanese, I think.
Possible.
Yeah.
To me, definitely my experiences in Korea and Japan are very different. So I didn't have that sense, but I think it really depends
Koreans
on what your experiences in
Koreans are more like the Latins of Asia, I think. Like they're very warm-blooded, hot-blooded too. They can get angry more easily than Japanese, but they're also warmer as people. That's my experience.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess my experience in Japan was that I really liked the overall culture of being very respectful towards each other and very, very, very nice to each other. Like, I think that's to some degree also encapsulated in this whole dojo framework of like that you were able to live at many people's places, right? And to study Go, and like that's very nice. I think like that's an amazing part of it. But
yeah.
But of course, that also has many many variations, very many negative variations of that same thing, which is like to not tell someone when they're doing something wrong because you want to be nice.
Yeah.
But then it has a lot of these like for example, for me, I did some stuff wrong and nobody told me, but behind my back they would talk about it, right? But that would be even worse for me, right? Because I would understand that's what's happening, but I couldn't really interact with it. So it has like these pros and cons.
Yeah. So in Japan, I really didn't like Japan in the beginning. I really hated it. I hated it. I didn't like it.
What didn't you like? Like there was a second I didn't hear you.
I didn't like Japan.
Generally.
Japan. We were talking about Japan.
Yeah. So. I think so. Yeah, there was something about Japan like floating around. Yeah. So basically, in general, you had your problems with the culture there. Is that it? Or were you homesick a little bit, or was it?
I was very, very homesick. I was very homesick, yeah. And it lasted 2.5 years. almost 2.5 years. I remember exactly why.
Why?
Oh, you want me to give an explanation? Okay. Well, after 2.5 years, I finally could go back to the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
just for a visit. And I stayed there for a month. But then something really bad happened in the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
in Amsterdam. I lived in Amsterdam. I come from a small village, not a village, small city, about 120,000 people at the time.
Uh-huh.
And when I went to university in Amsterdam. So
Yeah.
that was a big city,
Yeah.
right? And everything was fine there, and I had some friends. I stayed for the first 3 months or 4 months. I couldn't find a place to live, so I stayed with some girlfriends.
Mm.
They had a spare room, and I could stay there.
That's nice.
So yeah, and they made food for me, everything. So I was really very lucky.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'd been in Japan, and then I came back to Holland for about a month for a holiday.
Okay.
And then I was in Amsterdam, and something really bad happened. We got mugged. I was with I had a girlfriend by that time.
Mm.
And I went there with my girlfriend, and we got mugged in the middle of the night.
Mugged? Mugged. Yeah, sure.
Mugged.
Yeah.
Is at knife point.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they're threatening with a knife, 3 guys. And I was, oh man, I felt horrible. But there was one lucky aspect. They did not rape my girlfriend or anything. They just wanted my money.
That's
and they
good.
just took
So
my,
they also didn't hire you or her?
No, they didn't do anything. They just took my purse.
Yeah.
They only took the money out of my purse, and they gave me the purse back. Yeah, they only wanted the money.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and I was very, very lucky, because that day I only had like 50 guilders. It was enough for them to satisfy them. But the day before that, I had 1,000 guilders. So,
yeah, that would have been a bit more heartbreaking.
Absolutely, yeah.
In a way, even though I guess more importantly, it's probably a pretty emotional thing, right? Like it's not really that much about the money, I would guess, right? Like it's more about like experience.
It was a real big shock.
Yeah.
But then there was another shock. We went to the police station, and they said, "Oh well, yeah. So that happens every day."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "What? It's on knife point,
Yeah.
They used knives. Well, they didn't. Well, do you have wounds or something?" No. Well, okay. Well, if you really want, you can write down. You can give your data and so on.
Yeah.
You can write down that this happened. If you really want to, that's fine. It's basically. And I was so disgusted with their attitude. We were.
It was basically this sort of attitude where they basically told you nothing will happen. Like, don't expect anything to come out of this. And
yes.
why do you even try? Like,
why do you even bother?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you guys are the police, aren't you? Yeah. I was so. Well, that's the moment that I lost this feeling of homesickness.
Mm-hmm.
I never was homesick after that. So I went back to Japan and never homesick anymore.
I would have hoped for some optimistic story of like, oh, something really beautiful happened in Japan, and then never was homesick anymore. But no. It's of course a very negative
It was,
story. And so, I didn't need to be
well,
homesick
I mean,
anymore.
well, what usually happens with expats
Hmm.
is, they start living in some other country, and then they start idealizing their home country.
Yeah.
They start thinking that it was better than it actually was, and they only filter out all the bad stuff that happened. They remember only the good stuff.
Hmm.
And well, I didn't have that problem.
That's good.
So
That's good.
yeah, it's good not to have that problem.
Yeah. It is
Yeah.
helpful. It is helpful.
It
Okay,
is
so
helpful, yeah.
let's maybe what is it?
Go back to the
Accelerate
original story.
forward a little bit. So
Okay.
at some point
I
you
go
became
back
an INSEE, right? How did that
yeah.
go? Like how was your experience as an INSEE? Like I was an INSEE for 3 months, and I bet it was very different back then. And like how was it for you? How
Okay. First of all, how did I become? Oh, so I started working for Sakata,
Yes.
right? And then I wanted to become an INSEE, and everybody knew, but it didn't happen, and I didn't know why.
Mm.
I thought Sakata is the president of the Neon King. He can make me INSEE, but nothing happened. And so anyway, I got a girlfriend after a couple of months,
Mm-hmm.
and I was living together with Sakata's wife's brother,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he had one room and I had another room, right? And so and then I got his girlfriend, and she stayed with me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the brother told the sister, who told the husband, Sakata.
Yeah.
And anyway, one morning at 8 o'clock or so, suddenly she came.
Okay.
And I was lying there with my girlfriend. And she said, "Oh, so it is true." And well,
probably not as funny as a
she
moment as it is
no,
now.
no. And it was immediately she got into a fight with my girlfriend. I guess she was naked too. So it was pretty bad. Yeah.
Crazy.
And then because of that, I got fired. I lost my job because Sakata said, "Well, no, I actually not because of that." Sakata said, "Well, are you getting rid of her?" And I said, "Why? Why? She's my girlfriend." "Oh, of course not." And then the next thing I knew, I was fired. Right?
Because you were a bad employee, obviously. Like it had nothing to do with that. Like that was obviously just a coincidence.
No.
Right?
The thing was, he thought that he had been trying to help me become a professional on my way to becoming an INSEE or becoming a professional. It was my dream after all.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought he had helped me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he believed that having a girlfriend is in a direct contradiction to trying to become professional.
It seems that that's still a very wide-held belief. Like when I was in Japan, some other INSEE was not allowed to bring girls to his apartment, like to have women in his apartment. So like that was a rule, as far as I know, like as far as I understood. So
yeah, but that's a little bit different because
and maybe that was also the rule for me. I don't know. Like I don't know if I was also told that or not, but yeah, there was something like that. So
Right. Yeah. Well, anyway, so he thought he took it as a personal insult.
Hmm.
He did something for me, and I just didn't want it. I ignored it. I ignored his will. You know, he helped me, and I went against it.
Hmm.
Something like that. So I guess he felt insulted, even though, I mean, I had no idea. So yeah. Anyway, I got fired, and then we decided to live together,
Mhm.
to move somewhere. I lost my apartment as well, and so suddenly,
So they basically just
my
did they have any consideration, or were they just like, we kick you out? Like, we don't even care where you, if you have a place to go, or did they consider that, or like, because
well,
that
there's
would sound
another.
very harsh, right? Like if they just say,
Yeah, I know there's something else happened,
Mhm.
but I can't talk about that really on tape.
Okay, sure.
I mean, that's off the record.
Yeah.
I can talk about it on the off the record, but I can't say that here.
Sure.
So you want me to? So you have to cut it out then.
No,
Will
it's
you
it's
or
fine. It's fine. Let's just
uh,
so basically
okay,
you were kicked out and now you
right?
got together with your girlfriend.
Yeah, and so then she had to take care of me
Hmm.
because I lost my job,
Yeah.
and yeah, so this was pretty bad. So she started. Well, she had her job,
Hmm.
and then she took another job as
Wow.
well. Yeah, and so I think she worked like 12 hours a day or something.
Wow.
And while I tried to become a professional,
Hmm.
but I wasn't very good at it. You
Hmm.
know,
So
I
what
felt
did you do?
I was.
You like, what were you able to do? You were able to like just study from books and stuff like that, or
Yeah,
did you have
that's
any
all
other?
yeah, and going to the Neokiin,
Hmm. Okay.
but I wasn't allowed to go upstairs like the Insei would,
Yeah.
and nobody helped me
Hmm.
because I was a pariah, I guess. You know, I was like a uh, rotten fish. Well, nobody wanted to have anything to do with me, I think.
Yeah.
You know, so and so it was like I was very frustrated,
Hmm.
and it was also very hard for me to study because I felt this kind of this resentment and also this this inability to understand what was going on,
Yeah.
and I didn't have money to buy good books, and I couldn't play with professionals or anything of his insane. But there was a Go Club, a Takalana Baba Go Club, and it's a famous Go Club among Westerners because all Westerners, when they go to Tokyo, usually they go there. In those days, especially.
Hmm.
And the reason was there was one guy who had been in Australia for 2 years, I think, and he spoke English quite fluently. And he was
Hmm.
teaching Go there to foreigners. So and he
Nice.
was, his brother was a professional foredan, I think, and he himself was a top amateur.
Hmm.
So I started going there every day. It was like
Nice.
I had to return my bicycle as well. So I had no means of transportation. And we lived about 2.5 kilometers from the Go Club. So every day I would walk 2.5 kilometers to the Go Club and 2.5 kilometers
So they
back.
basically helped you with your workout regime, right? So that was
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Yeah, but the bad thing was I got within like 2 or 3 weeks after I came to Japan, I got asthma.
Mm.
The air quality in those days was horrible,
Mm.
and I guess that's the reason why it triggered asthma.
Mm.
Before that, I never had asthma. Um,
Crazy.
so yeah, well, my father had asthma, so I guess,
Mm.
epigenetically, I mean, I
What's
was
a
already.
redemption story? How did you finally get into the INSEE? Um,
Okay,
who
so
was the hero?
so
Who was the hero?
so
Who
yeah, yeah,
finally...
yeah. So after a couple of months, I got an invitation by um, Oeda.
Mhm,
Oeda is the teacher of Michael Redmond
mhm,
and a whole host of other professionals. There are a couple of Nine professionals among them, although I don't remember who they are exactly. But anyway, I got invited to Oeda, and he also invited my girlfriend. And um, well, I played a game with Michael,
nice.
two-stone handicap, and then the first game I lost by 1 point, and the second game I won by 1 point.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it was his style to win or lose by 1 point all the time.
Maybe.
But
I mean, he always tried to make it jigo, but he wasn't
but
perfect.
he was he couldn't count very well, I guess. Okay. Anyway, never mind. Michael, if you listen to this ever, no, don't worry.
I
I
actually
know.
I actually love his AlphaGo series, so shout out to Michael Redmond.
Oh
Anyway.
yeah, absolutely. And he's doing YouTube's right now as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a very good teacher.
Yeah, yeah. Like yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely like the stuff that I saw, so keep it
yeah.
up. Okay, anyway.
Hmm. Yeah. So, and then apparently, Oeda had been talking to my girlfriend
Uh-huh.
while I was playing Go with Michael.
Yeah.
You know, and well, then we went out for dinner, and and you know, uh, some other crazy things happened in that house. It was
Uh-huh.
a very big house with maybe 10 Inse or 12 Inse living there.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the max there were 15 Inse living in that house.
Yeah.
And I thought that the woman who was cooking was his wife, but it turned out it was he had employed her.
Mm-hmm.
And he told my girlfriend that yes, he was married technically, but he got married, and the next day his wife ran away. So yeah,
Ouch.
yeah, ouch, yeah. And she never came back, but he was still married to her.
Mm.
It was very, very strange.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
It's can be kind of tough to experience something like that.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, but it's possible that he had these insay already. So she was, I mean, in those days, the wife had to do whatever the husband told her to do,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And she was basically, in those days, women were slaves of men. Really, they literally were.
Mm-hmm.
They had to do whatever their husband told them to do. So I guess, if she thought she was going to get married to a professional Go player, and then it turns out um, that she had to take care of all these insane.
Mm.
I mean, that was certainly not in her worst dreams, I guess. But okay, I can rationalize it, whatever. Uh,
You
but
can have your
anyway,
theory.
yeah, 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 yeah. I can have my theory.
Fair enough.
Anyway, then um, my girlfriend, we went back home, and my girlfriend said, "Well, this guy can make you an insect."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Did he say so?" She said, "No, he told me between the lines."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what do I have to do for that? Nothing. You just have to behave well. You just have to wait. You just have to have patience. Just the Japanese way of having patience. So just don't make any waves. Don't do crazy things. Just do normal behavior, and everything will be fine. And so, okay. So then it was decided that it could become insane. But then there was an event at the Go Club, at the Takanada Baba Go Club, where I would play Mrs. Ogawa, Ogawa Tomoko. That's one of the Go books in English literature is The Endgame of James Davies and her. And so,
Nice.
I mean, I knew her. And she was announcer at the at NHK, you know, like their Go games on TV.
Yeah.
They've been there for like 50 years or something.
Yeah.
And so she was what they call the kitite, the person who's listening, who's giving who asks the questions to the professional. And the professional then, you know, it's easy for him to give an explanation then.
Yeah.
So she would say, "Oh, how about this move here, Sensei?" And he said, "Oh, well, you know, that is
I
a
mean, it kind
difficult
of
move
makes
to
sense,
guess."
right?
Yeah.
Like basically to have a weaker person and a stronger persona. I mean, not really.
Yeah. But she was a 4-dan professional.
Exactly,
She was a 5-dan
exactly.
professional.
That's what I mean,
She was
right?
really strong.
Yeah. Like,
So but she pretended to be much weaker then.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Like in Japanese,
Yeah.
this TV thingy, it's very common, right? Like this. Yeah, it's very stereotypical. I would say.
It's very stereotypical.
I guess that's why I liked the AlphaGo commentary during the games as well, because it was two dudes, and the dude was
Okay, right,
really
yeah.
bad, and one dude was good. Could have also been two women, but it's I don't know, or like it would be so much. I would so much prefer if it was this way, because I think it's a great format actually. But if sometimes it was reversed, you know, like sometimes the guy would ask all the stupid questions and the girl would know.
Actually, that happens now.
Ah, really? Oh, that's nice.
I've
That's
seen
great.
it a couple
So
of times, but
my
not
wish
on national
fulfilled
TV.
itself.
Not on national TV though. Not on NHK, but on YouTube. I've seen it a couple of times.
Oh, that's nice.
So for example, Fujisawa Rina, one of she's I guess the top title holder, women title holder in Japan right now.
Yeah, I still remember the first time I met her. I met her at the Insei thingy, and I didn't manage to solve like a few tsumego, and so I had to do like 50 push-ups or something. And so I did 50 like the first time, like I met her, I said hi, and then immediately you have to do 50 push-ups, and then I did 50 push-ups in front of her, basically, you know. That was kind of funny, like, yeah, that was the
she
first
thought,
time.
wow, this foreigner, wow.
No, she was like laughing at me actually, so that was also funny, but in a nice way. Like I appreciated her aura, let's say. Like I felt she's a nice person, because sometimes
good person.
Sometimes in Japan I had a different vibe with people like who are really laughing at me, you know, like in a very bad manner, but she did it, I think, in a very friendly manner. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
I did actually have the opportunity to meet her at some point. So that was
right.
And yeah, that's great. Great that my wish came into fulfillment. So okay, so back in the day, NHK always did this thing that women, for those of you who don't know also, basically the woman, even though she was also professional, she would ask a question that even beginners would ask, basically, so as to give that perspective to the people. And always the man was behaving like as strong as he is, which is a top professional.
Well, he's a top pro, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, but so his role would shine. He would shine, you know.
Yes.
So the woman would always make him shine.
Yeah.
So, but it has to be said that it was men would love her.
Mm.
I mean, she was a big idol
Mm.
in those days. And, I mean, by making these men shine, she's shown herself. She
Yeah.
was shining. Yeah, that was
Yeah, I mean,
her
I
job,
think
and
you
she was
can
really good at it.
you can fulfill that role in a very good fashion, right? So I'm
Well, if you're a good interviewer, you can do the same thing.
yes.
So, even though I'm the big guy here, you may shine. I'm just joking.
Hopefully.
So, yeah, well, I mean, a good interviewer is a big asset. It's very
Yes.
important to draw out the right things. So if I'm doing something wrong, to blame, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This whole thing is like a process, right? Like I'm sure. Like as much as I try to have a good conversation with you, I want to
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. I try to become better at doing these conversations, right? Like it's like playing a Go game. You should not only try to win the Go game, you should try in the Go game to become better at the game so that you increase the likelihood of winning across time. So that's the
Absolutely.
same here.
Absolutely. So I'm training you for free.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
It's hard training sometimes. Yeah, I've got to throw you some more problems here.
Yeah. I'm trying. That's nice.
Anyway, so getting back to reality here.
Yes.
So since I had this demonstration, it was a demonstration game. This Tomoko, what's her name now?
Ogawa?
Do you remember? Did you actually listen? You listened. Very good. Ogawa Tomoko, yeah. And
I'm bad with these Japanese names, by the way. Don't ever do that again. It's so difficult to memorize. Anyway.
Yeah, so there were two people who were commenting, two professionals. And one was a 7-dan or 8-dan professional, and he was okay. He was a lot stronger than Ogawa. And there was this top professional who had been coming there every year. It was a yearly event. And he had been coming there every year for more than 10 years already. Cho-Kun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Cho-Kun, he has all these jokes, and just
he seems
all
to
the
be
time.
Full of energy. Like he's.
Oh man, it was just fantastic to listen to him.
Nice.
Yeah, so at this game, and during the game, they were commenting. I couldn't see what they were doing on the demonstration board.
Yeah.
But there were like 200 people. It was absolutely filled with people, maybe 300 people in this Go club. It was completely filled. And they were, and I could hear more or less what was going on.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, my Japanese at that time was already such that I could have a real conversation. And yeah, because I went to the Go club every day. So I had to talk about Go every day.
Yeah.
And then you learn new words every day. And in the beginning, when I met my girlfriend, she spoke English with an American accent. Really good American accent, if you can phrase it as such, and we spoke English all the time. And after a while, we changed to Japanese. But also, after a while, she started speaking English with a Dutch accent. So, yeah, think about that.
So you became closer, you know, like that's a representation of that.
Exactly. Yeah. But we spoke Japanese most of the time already. You know, she had changed. Well, at first she started talking to me in Japanese, simple sentences. And then, of course, you know, just like a baby gets taught by the mother.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It's very difficult to speak your own language at that level, you know, to speak like a mother. I mean, once you have children, most people will do that naturally.
Yeah.
But especially mothers, women are good at that.
Yeah.
Better than some men.
Yeah.
But okay.
Some men are good at it too.
Should I? Oh man. Yeah. Well, I changed my mind at a lot, you know, because otherwise people may think I'm discriminating.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
okay.
For sure you are.
Yeah.
No, I think we can agree on that. Probably on average, women are better at that. So.
Yeah. So, well, I guess she was more or less like a mother for me, even though she was my girlfriend. But
Freud,
in the end, you know,
Freud is being very happy in his grave right now. So thank you.
Thanks.
He's celebrating.
He's celebrating. Right. So then Oeda got wind of that there was this demonstration game. He said, "Oh, well, I can't make you the insane now because you know, an insane cannot play a professional in that way because it's an amateur Go club. So you have to play as an amateur. So you're still an amateur. You cannot become an insane yet. So I had to wait 2 months in order to become an insane. So that cost me 2 months." But
was it
he
at
made
least
me
a nice game? Was it at least a enjoyable game?
I was 2 stones handicap, and I lost. Not surprisingly.
Yeah.
But I was, yeah. But it was I had a real chance.
Yeah. So maybe it was worth.
And after the game, there was something interesting after the game because Cho Chikun, so they were replaying the game again after we had finished, and so Ogawa Tomoko, she also had to have some comments, and I had to give my comments, and then Ogawa said, "Oh well, I thought at this point I was winning, right?" And then this 7-up professional said, "Oh really?" And then he took over for me, right? He took over for me, and 5-10 moves later, he was winning, right? And Tomoko Ogawa was losing again.
That's harsh.
And then he said, then the professional said, "Now I'm winning." And then Church Koon said, "Really?" And then
nice. Okay, that's great. Okay, that's a better story. I was almost.
He took Ogawa Tomoko's place. And 10 moves later, he was winning. I mean, the difference, you could see the difference between Ogawa, who was a 5-down, that 7-down, and then a top professional, Church Koon, who was maybe the number 1 at that time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just fantastic to see that.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And the jokes they made at the same time. I mean, it was real entertainment. 200, 300 people were watching that, and they were just laughing and smiling and having a great time. I mean, so this is, cool. Yeah, I loved it.
Nice.
So these were, these are really nice instances, nice moments in the life of a Go player. The best moments you can have as a Go player.
Yeah. I definitely had a bunch of amazing memories myself in the Go world.
Yeah.
So 2 months later, You're there, ready.
Yeah, and I became
You have
an insight.
you have your shoulders high,
Yeah. Whoa.
and you pull
Yeah.
yourself up by the bootstraps, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Let's go, insane.
Yeah.
So how did
So
you
yeah.
started in
Well,
class, I suppose?
about the lowest, not the lowest class, but the semi-lowest class, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were 5 classes, 5 of 14 people each.
Mm-hmm.
So it was what is 14 times 4? 56.
Yes.
I think I started as number 56.
Oh, wow.
50,
Nice.
56. Yeah. And so, I mean, the first month I already, every month you go up or down.
Yeah.
So of course I went up after 1 month I already went up to the next one.
Yeah.
But then, I knew I was better than these guys, but I couldn't win.
Mm.
I didn't go down anymore, but I stayed there for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 months. Then I went up, and then down, up, down, up, down. It's just really frustrating, man. I mean, you can win, but then you don't,
Yeah.
because of some stupidity. Yeah. Like,
Probably your opponents
but,
think the same thing, right? Like,
exactly.
so.
But I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
They didn't even tell me afterwards.
Maybe they did.
Well, but with deeds, not with words,
Yeah.
with action. Yeah. So I mean, it's really hard. It's much harder than you think it is.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating.
It's also many
Not
games,
only
right? Like I don't know if it was the same back then, but I was really surprised how many games. Like when I played, it was 12 games a weekend, and then 10 games a weekend, I think, which is like double of a normal European tournament. So it was very difficult for me, like because I
like
was
half an hour or so.
Hmm?
So it was like half an hour thinking time or something. What?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, half an hour thinking time about that, and it was in the last class. It was 12 games, so 6 games a day, and on the weekend. And then on the D and C, I think it was 10 games each weekend, and that was still like very
We
stressful.
had 3 games. We had 3 games.
Okay, a day or 3
And
games a weekend?
no, weekends. So
Wow. Okay.
Saturdays 1 game.
Yeah.
Sundays 2 games.
Okay.
And then it would be somehow we would get 13 games.
Yeah. So you had much longer games.
1 hour.
Yeah.
No Bioyomi. So there's
Okay.
no Bioyomi.
Okay.
So sudden death.
Interesting.
And yeah. So that's also really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And before in Europe, I was the best reader.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very good at reading and Tsumego and that kind of stuff. And that's how I won my games. I wasn't good at Fuseki. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
I mean, why have Fuseki if you can start the middle game right away? Hey.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, many of my games would start in one corner and then just go over the whole board.
Yeah.
So because I like fighting and I wasn't scared to show them that I liked it.
Yeah, for me it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but in Japan, basically, you didn't have that experience that you were the very best at fighting.
No, the thing was like all these guys could fight.
Yeah.
They could all read. I mean, not the weakest ones.
Yeah.
But if you get to there's the A group, the B, the C, the D, the E. So D was easy. E is like just for I don't know. It's like Q players even.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's for really young and maybe talented people that just started more or less their path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and the D group is for they're Dan players.
Yeah.
But maybe up to 4 Dan, something like that. And then the E group is like, they're all like well, not professional, but top of Europe.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the B group, that's already very close to professional level. They could all be European champion in those days. And then there's the A level, and they're all, I mean, on a good day, they could all be the professional. And on a bad day, they would still be okay.
Mm.
So the top 5 or 6, they were professional level always.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think
so
that's
the
probably
competition
still
was,
the same way, at least for A class. Like, yeah.
yeah. So so there was an examination that year, and I didn't make it, obviously.
Mm.
And well, my score was, I think, 6 out of 19 games.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was a rule that you, as a foreigner, if you score half, you can become a professional.
Uh-huh.
Like most of the professionals that you see, Western professionals, scored half, 50%, and then they become professional.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't go through the regular process where they had to become the number 1 to 3 or number 1 to 4.
Possible. I
So
mean, some were, yeah. But I think Catalin,
Catalin made it.
yeah, in Osaka, right? Yeah, and I think he
No,
went through
Nagoya.
Nagoya. Ah, okay. But that's really
Yeah.
an accomplishment. Like, also he had very good win rate once he was a professional. So that
Yeah.
he would maybe be the exception.
Yeah, and I think Michael probably was the exception.
I mean, yeah.
So,
Well, I meant European basically, but yeah, in Western sense, I mean, Michael Redmond is, of course, very.
Yeah. But he got proper training. He went to Japan when he was, I think, the first time when he was 13, and for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then he went to Japan forever when he was 14 only, and it took him 4 years. He became professional when he was 18, I think.
Nice.
And I met him. I met him when he had, maybe he was 18 at the time. So just turned pro, and maybe he was 2 down. So maybe 1 down, maybe 2 down. But he was still 18, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 19. Maybe 19. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone will be overly critical of that. That's nice. Okay, so how long were you in SAE? Like, how long did you go through that process? And
So then I went back to. So I was in SAE for 10 months, and then I went back to Holland. And in the meanwhile, I got a job, by the way, as a translator.
Okay.
English, Dutch, for technical manuals. Yeah, but I studied physics for like was it 2 years or something? So I was studying physics when I left, but I never came back. So I had to stop my
of course,
my education now.
But so basically, the leftover of that education was that you knew a little bit about physics, and so you could be part of a translation team for technical stuff that most people wouldn't be so accustomed to, even the ones who could translate. I guess that was a good advantage to have.
Yep.
Nice.
So the people who were doing it at that time, they had no technical background whatsoever. And they just basically hated that job.
Mm.
And whereas by then I was also piqued by language
Mhm.
because of Japanese. I had started to become interested in other languages.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I liked that job.
Nice.
So yeah. Um, anyway, went to Holland. There was a summer break for 1 month. So I went to Holland, then came back, and then before that I had been very, very sick with asthma. And, especially on those days, Saturdays and Sunday that I had to play Go for the Insee League, Friday night, Saturday night, without exception, I was coughing my lungs out. Yeah, it was
Oof.
really, really bad. And I slept only a couple of hours on during those nights.
Mm.
But then on other days I would be much better. It was clearly psychosomatic, you know.
Mm.
So clearly my psychological well-being or my psychological condition had a big influence on this illness.
Yeah.
And there was so much stress from this playing Go,
Yeah.
Well, I heard later, Michael Redmond told me later that was the same for him.
Mhm.
When he was in Insee, it was so stressful. And for all these Insee, it was extremely stressful.
Yeah.
But only once they become professional, the stress would go away.
Yeah.
It's much less stressful to be a pro than to become one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, I didn't know that at the time. But so I went to Holland, and then the asthma went away. I had
Nice.
no problem with asthma anyway.
Mm.
So we came back to Japan, and it started right away. And I got so extremely sick. I just kept coughing and coughing and coughing, and and I went to the doctor, and they had basically in those days they didn't have really good medicine for asthma.
Mhm.
And well, oh yeah, they gave me some medicine where I became delusional. Yeah, I wanted to jump out of the window.
Fuck.
And yeah, and so I went back to the doctor a couple of days later and said, I became delusional. Is this because of the medicine? And I said, well, maybe. I said, because I wanted to jump out of the window. I've never had that.
Mm.
And he said, I said, this is a side effect. And he said, well, usually we don't tell people, our patients, that they can have side effects, because then they will have them.
Mm.
Yeah, they will be much more likely to have side effects. So
Yeah, sure.
we don't usually say that. And I said, but does it have that side effect? Yes, he said. So I said, so I said, so it's possible that people actually jumped out of the window. And he said, well, probably not. You know?
Only things are complicated, so but yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds definitely a bit
Yeah, so this is a big thing also in the whole world, with medicine.
yeah.
But not just medicine. The nocebo effect,
Yeah.
placebo, and the opposite is the negative effect, it's nocebo effect. Like, for example, right now you got corona, and it's quite possible that people suffer from this nocebo effect.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah, it's an
Uh,
interesting one. It's about the power of the mind. So I
the
think we
power of the
can
mind. Yeah, yeah. So
I
you
think
can turn it both ways, you know.
we can
I
create
think it's very important to train your mind.
yes.
But like 30 years ago, we didn't know anything. We knew shit. You know, even the psychiatrists, they had no idea. But they still don't have a clue, I think, because they
Yeah, I
think
think
the
it's
only thing they do is just giving medicine.
also it's
So we
still
have to
very
do everything by
complicated,
ourselves.
right? We still know
It's
shit,
still very complicated.
but
Yeah, but
maybe we
at
know a little
least
bit more.
10,000 times as much shit, you know. So
Whether that helps or not, but yeah.
ah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Let's be
it's very
positive
important
about
to
it.
facilitate
Let's be
this.
positive about it. Yes, it does.
Yes. Yes, it helps.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
exactly.
important to say
It's very important to facilitate this process in yourself
that.
to
Yep, for the
like that's
placebo
what
effect.
many also great athletes and stuff talk about
Yeah,
the strength of manifestation, right? Of
hmm,
visualizing you
yeah,
succeeding
yeah,
to draw that energy from somewhere inside of you to inform your behavior in a way that you
yeah.
can't even really know exactly what it does, but that's the same thing like with the medication. You don't know exactly how you create the negative response in your body, but somehow because of negative thoughts you create that negative response, or the positive response with positive thoughts. And similarly, I think even without knowing exactly what you're doing, by just visualizing yourself succeeding at something or whatever, you increase your potential, and you create the behavior that will get you there without even realizing exactly what you're doing. So I think the power of the mind is really something people should not underestimate in their own lives, and what they
yeah,
pay attention to.
yeah. And so inconsciously, you have all these narratives running through your head, through your mind.
Hmm.
So every time you see something, you interpret it, and you have a narrative, you have a thought attached to that, what you're observing.
Yeah.
And so this program, it's like a program in a computer that's running. And yeah, I mean, it steers you into a certain direction. And well, yeah, that's so you have to become aware of that if you
Yeah,
want to change that.
exactly. Become, not just let it drive you, but also be a driving force for it, right? Like that's very important to understand that it's
Yeah,
a two-way street. So
yeah. So your subconsciousness or your unconsciousness is your autopilot.
yes,
And sometimes you just have to become aware. Hey, this autopilot is going the wrong way.
yes.
Uh, so let's do something about it.
But I think the
Yeah,
important part is basically that one has to realize that you can basically program in a way the subconscious by your actions as well. So basically people think a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
about that their thinking makes them
Oh,
behave
yeah.
a
Action
certain
is very
way.
important. Action is important
Exactly.
because that
So
gives you a positive that can break the cycle.
exactly. So
Yeah,
for example, if you just like just stretch yourself upwards a lot, or like stand up tall, etc., these kind of things, that will actually make you feel more alive and just stronger and more self-confident and all these things. And that will in turn change the way you think about yourself, and that will in turn, like you're saying, create the cycle that also you will behave more that way, and that will of course inform what you think again. So sometimes it doesn't have to be that first you have to change the paradigm. Sometimes the best thing you can do to change your paradigm is to change your behavior. And I think sometimes people don't see that opportunity. So how did you um, try
no, I
to?
didn't. I didn't. I
Okay,
couldn't. I didn't. I had no idea at that time.
okay,
I was. I had no knowledge.
yeah,
Nobody told me. I had no trainer.
yeah,
And I mean, now I know all this shit. Sorry. excuse me, excuse my
It's fine.
French, excuse my French. Yeah,
Excusez-moi.
excusez-moi. Yeah, so
Sure.
yeah,
So you struggled through
we
life in Japan.
had no idea. In those days, we had no idea. These days, you can look up anything on the internet.
Yeah.
But you know, there was a time, you may be shocked that there was no internet when I was a
A
kid.
time
No,
without
yeah,
internet.
yes, it's amazing. I mean,
I
how
I
could
don't even
people
understand
live?
like how can these
How could
words
people?
like
How
interplay
can
with
people
another in
live?
the same sentence?
Uh-huh.
Like because time isn't time what is displayed on the bottom right in the corner on my computer screen? Like I thought that's time. So
That's
like
time.
how can that be
Exactly.
without?
That's the only thing you know about time.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
I think
We don't
that's
know anything
somewhat what,
else.
yeah. But yeah, that's
Yeah, and we
definitely a
we
big
we
difference, right? That people are sometimes not aware of that. Like now we have all this access to information, and I think most people are not really aware of that privilege that
yeah.
now
Well,
so many of us
now
are blessed with.
you know the only way we could get stronger in those days is so when I was a kid, I was when I was 14, I think I got my first Go book. That's the first time I got access to external information to,
Yeah.
you know, because I was already the strongest Go player in my town.
Mm.
And so how do you get stronger? Well, the only way is not by thinking, but by getting new information. And the only way you could get new information was not the internet. Haha. No, were books. Books or by meeting somebody, by getting personal, lessons.
Yeah. That's really cool.
And
Like,
and so I became the strongest co-player in my town
mm,
by reading books and then applying it.
yeah.
And in the end, I became the strongest in Europe, first in the Netherlands, by reading books and applying it. Europe, reading books and applying it.
Yes.
But now you can actually spar with an AI. You have access to professionals. You have access to real strong players.
Yeah.
But to become stronger than anybody else in your neighborhood, that's really difficult. If you even just with books,
Yes. Yeah, you have to put the time in. Even though that's similar to now. Like,
Yeah,
I
but
mean, there
not
are
just the
some
time. You
disadvantages.
have to think. You have to think as well. You have to process it. You have to
Yes, exactly.
internalize it
And also
and apply it.
yes, and also one really important factor is that you try to eliminate your own biases, right? Like in the process, because like these will often hold people back. Like there are some people who just have a very strong belief about something and they don't want it to change. And then
Mhm.
that can hold them back in their entire process, right? So how about the whole improvement thing, how did that interplay with being a translator actually? Like did you feel like the process of learning at Go could be applied at least partially in your endeavor at being a good translator, or like how did you feel in that regard?
I never really thought about it, but I'm kind of analytical.
Hmm?
I'm an analytical person.
Yes.
So, and to translate technical stuff, you have to have a analytical mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I mean, there's some overlap, but I don't think there's a direct connection. I mean, people often believe that if you're a Go player, then you can do all these other things. Yeah, there's some overlap, but I don't think there's a direct connection with anything.
Sure.
I mean, And yeah, if you're smarter, maybe you can probably play Go better, but maybe not. I mean, I think drive is very important. If you look at the chess players, for example,
Sure.
right? They always thought, oh well, these guys are the best, and they have a much higher IQ. Well, they've done extensive studies, and yeah, they are a little bit better, maybe, but not significantly. And I expect that for Go players, there's not much of a difference. I mean, if you're not too smart, you can still become a professional,
Yeah.
even if you have an IQ of only say 120.
Yeah. It's
Well,
I think it's
well,
similar.
110 or so, 120.
I think it's similar to a lot of things. Like IQ definitely helps.
Yeah, you
And I
learn
would
things
guess
quicker.
that to become a top professional, it's almost necessary to have a quite high IQ. That would be my guess.
I talk to a lot of these top professionals,
Yes.
and I think almost all of them are extremely smart, and
Yeah.
they would succeed in something else
Yeah,
if
that
they
would be
had
my
put their
guess.
mind to it. If they had
But
put their mind to it, they would excel in other areas
yes,
as well.
but basically my guess would also be, and that there I guess there's some similarity between our two thoughts, is that still the divergence between how much IQ these people have is very big. So like even though like maybe the best player, he has like an IQ of 120, but like with 140, like there's like the range of like maybe you need at least 120, but then there are also people above that, but it's not necessary to have 150, let's say. Like it's not like this huge difference. It's like the difference between like studying different fields, right? Like when you look at the IQ distribution of different fields, and there's a very significant difference, but still it's in the range of like there's also a huge overlap, right? Like and the overlap is bigger than the difference is, if you like look at these IQ distributions. So
Yeah,
so usually people shouldn't be completely discouraged if they maybe think they're not the most intelligent, but if they have a lot of drive and love the game, that can be very helpful, as well
yeah.
as succeeding at anything. um
Well, I once, when my son graduated from elementary school,
hmm,
um, there were all these. We were all eating together, the parents and the graduates, and suddenly I was asked to give a speech. Yeah, so there are like all these parents.
mhm,
I think there were maybe 60 kids in total, and 120 parents, maybe
mhm.
almost all parents were there, and then the teachers and some random people. And suddenly I had to give a speech.
Nice.
And well, I mean, if they had told me beforehand, I could have done it. But they told me, oh, you always have interesting things to say. So, okay.
That's nice.
Well, thank you very much. But, they kind of put me on the spot.
Sure.
But I said, okay, give me 10 minutes. So I made some notes. And then I gave the speech. And I said, well, congratulations to all of you. You're all graduates. Sometimes some of you think, well, I just made it. And other people think, well, I'm the smartest in the class. Huh? And you will all have your ideas about things. But, in the end, it doesn't make much of a difference. There are people here who are maybe the smartest now, but when they go to university, they don't have their own initiative. they're smart at certain things, but they have no what is it? They don't show any new ideas. They just can copy things very quickly. They can learn other people's stuff very quickly, but they don't have original ideas. And then there are people who are not very good at copying things, but they have their own original things, ideas. And once you go into society, it's completely different.
Yeah.
You will find out that people who are some of the people you thought were really stupid will be huge successes, and some people who you believe are very smart, they will amount to nothing. And this will happen to you too. So all of you, the only sure way to succeed is by really applying yourself and finding something that you really love and then put all your effort into it. And if you do that, then you will succeed, because you do something in your life that you really love and you're going to succeed. You can work 12 hours, 14 hours, 20 hours a day even for that, because you love doing it. And so you will succeed. So I hope all of you will really put your very best into it and succeed. Cheers. That was basically my speech.
Good speech.
Remember that, and it was in Japanese, of course.
Yeah. That makes it even better.
And
Gambate!
So I went back to my seat, and my wife said, "Wow, a really good speech." And then later, all these teachers said, "Wow! Where did you study that beforehand? Did you?" No, I said just 10 minutes. They gave me 10 minutes to think of this. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a sign of an intelligent person, I suppose.
I don't know, but I read a lot,
Yeah, and also that's probably also something you enjoy, right? Like getting put on the spot, having to
I didn't
find the answer to Natsume Go, right? Like you said it earlier, right? Like you were quite good at solving problems, right? And problems in Go and problems in the real world, I'm not sure there's necessarily a big difference. Like if you find a way of connecting the two, like oh, nice.
I'm lighting up.
Yeah, you're lighting up.
Hey.
Like I think basically, so what you're saying earlier about like that they're not directly connected, like different things in Go. I would to some degree agree and to some degree disagree. To me,
I think there's an overlap. I think there's an overlap, but it's not a one-on-one. There's a
sure.
translation.
I mean that's to some degree obvious, but to me, basically, the question always becomes, okay, how can I connect it? And then usually, like to me, for example, when I really understand something, my hypothesis is that I can use it on everything immediately. And if I cannot do that, that's to me usually a sign that I don't understand it deeply enough yet. So if I learn a new concept in a certain game, for example, Go, and then I think about it, like, oh, okay, how does this affect the way I treat people at a birthday party? I think about that. And then I'm like, I don't know, does this have any effect on that? And if that's my answer, then I feel like, okay, I don't understand it deeply enough yet. But then I find out like, oh, okay, this affects it in that way and stuff. Then I find out, okay, now I think I understand it.
Hold it there, right? Hold it right there, boy.
Sure. Here we go.
No, I think this is I think this is actually a dangerous thought. Because you think that you can apply all these this knowledge or these insights of Go to the real world. I think that's not true. You cannot. That I've done that a couple of times, and I've made huge blunders. And I think I understood the concept in Go, but I think it's just dangerous to think that it applies to real life as well. Go is just
Maybe.
a game. I mean, let me be the first one to disappoint you. Go is just a game. Sorry. Yeah.
Maybe life is just a game as well. So
Yeah, but a different game. It's
sure.
a bit of a different game.
Sure.
Yeah, of course you can treat it as a game, you know, and I've done that, and it works quite well actually.
So basically, my argument would be, if you look at a concept, you can create a concept either that is very localized, very localized to a game, or you can then generalize it upwards, right? So, for example, I could say something like, in a situation in which there's 80 stones in Atari and there's no other big move, I should defend. Like, that's a very localized statement, you know? And out of this very localized statement, I could make statements like, okay, you need to value moves according to the return on investment you have from a move in relation to the other moves on the board, and you should choose the one that has the highest return on investment or something like that. That would be a much more generalized idea. Then I could use for investment strategy, for example, right? Like, and I could even use that for how I behave in terms of choosing which people I spend time with or something like that, because I could think about, okay, like I could think about my friend circle in a similar way, right? Like, do I have the right people around me? Like, are these actually the people I want around me, right? Are these the move that I want to play? Is this the structure that and so that's basically the way I think about these things. Like, okay, I definitely cannot apply the 80 stones in Atari and I need to defend type of concept. And so when I get this concept, I need to generalize it first to have something that I can more concretely use to other things. And in the inverse, even if I feel like I have a generalized theory, but it's not applicable, then usually I tend to think my theory is wrong. Like, yeah, like that's usually my treatment of it. And you would basically say that's going too far.
It's very dangerous. It's kind of going too far. Yeah, because it's really coincidental. So I think you read too much into it, and it can be quite
But would there be any specific thing that you would say, basically, because you're saying that you tried that and it didn't work? Was there any specific concept you had and then tried to apply it in the real world and it failed you?
I don't remember actually, but I just remember that I've tried it and that I thought, well, this doesn't work at all. But yeah, I mean, of course, there are some general principles like optimizing your actions, like optimizing, doing the most efficient moves, making your stones work together, the kind of synergy, that kind of stuff. Yeah, of course, and that works well. But to generalize that and say always this has to be the case, that you can use a principle from Go into real life, that's too much. That's too dangerous, I think.
I think usually my concept,
some of them can.
Like, I guess the difference is also that my concepts are usually not like very absolutistic anyway. Like, I'm in games generally, I'm quite aware that I'm really bad, like in Go, I'm very aware that I don't know anything about this game. So my concepts are usually not very absolutistic. You know, they're not like always do X, Y, and Z. They're more like, okay, you can think
So,
about this.
but then how can you test? How can you then test your theory
Mm,
if you don't know anyway? You don't know about Go, and you don't know about the other subject. How can you
I don't know what
make a
testing would
theory then?
mean exactly. Like, I can put up another example and then think about it. So another example would be poker. Like from poker, I have a lot of stuff that I use in my life all the time.
Okay,
Both-
yeah, well, that's more psychology, but not well, partly.
no, but
It's
wait.
because it's
That's,
also statistics, a lot of statistics.
so, for example, in poker, I think it's the most obvious in poker that you shouldn't um, be happy or dissatisfied with your
Yeah.
performance.
It's the hands you're dealt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be
Uh-huh.
happy or dissatisfied with your performance according to the result, right? Like you shouldn't be result oriented. I think with poker it's the most obvious. Like even in Go it's the case, in life it's definitely the case, but in poker it's the most obvious. Like if you want to become good at poker, don't look at how much money you made in the session, right? Because that's not going to be a good mirror of how well you played, because there's enough statistical variance that it's not a really good predictor, and so you need to be
Yeah.
careful in examining really how well did I play, and like and
But that's not true for Go.
I think that's true for Go. That's why I'm
No,
saying
it
it,
is not
because
true for Go. It's not true for Go.
I think it's
I
very
mean, you
true for
can
Go.
just
So
because there is actually an objective measure that you are a better player or not. And
but I don't
there's
think in
it's
the
got
short term. So basically in Go, it's similarly that I have many games in which I win but play very badly, or lose and play very well. And so in
oh
Go,
yeah,
I
you
very
can learn from
similarly
that.
need to be looking at that rather than like sometimes I'm even winning against a really strong player. So socially, people are like, "Wow, you did this! Wow, amazing!" But I'm like, "No, I played a bad game," or I was lucky, or and I think for me that's very important. And sometimes I win against a very weak player on the paper, and many people, when they have this happen to them, they will just be like, yeah, I should beat that player, because they look at it in such an objective fashion, as if it was objective. And so
Mhm.
I think for me to have this background in poker is very
Yeah,
helpful for me to understand, no, that's not
that is
true.
helpful.
these
That
these
is helpful.
these letters on a piece of paper are not all there is to it, right? And I should be more thoughtful of my behavior exactly. And
Hmm.
but for this one, it would be, I could still not tell you how do I prove this is right. It's more of, I really feel
Uh-huh.
it's correct. Like I think, I mean, I can prove that it's correct for poker in the sense that I can prove that there's the correlation isn't big, but that doesn't prove it's correct to act that way, emotionally. Like
Mhm.
that's just a philosophical stance, I suppose. So I think for many of these kind of ways I treat the world, I couldn't prove them. It's more of that I try to find out certain things that ring true in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I understand. I mean, you want to conceptualize things, ideas.
Yes.
You want to generalize and also be able to get some kind of that is something you can hold on to. And
And also
that's
something to hold me into account, right? Like when I'm not following a certain idea, then I have to think
mhm.
about, okay, um, I'm not
That's
like, it's
important.
not like a
So
religion, it's not like these ideas are always correct. In that kind of circumstance, I would basically ask myself, okay, was that a function of the idea being wrong in this case, or was that
mhm.
a function of me being wrong? But because I have the idea, I can cross check, right? Like it's a very good help for me to
Yeah, it's some
examine.
introspection, some kind of standard.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that would be
yeah, that's
my
it.
argument in favor of these.
Well, when I have these students, these co-students, and so I tell them, okay, if you want to get stronger, then your thought thinking within a certain paradigm. That's your paradigm, your set of rules. Yeah. And the reason why you are as strong as you are is because of this paradigm. However, the reason why you're not stronger than that is also because of the paradigm. Right? So it's holding you back as well.
Sure, in a way. Yeah,
And
it might
so,
at least. It might at least. Like I'm not 100% convinced, but I do see the danger in paradigms for sure. But like,
I mean, I'm generalizing, of course.
yeah, but I mean, I really understand your point. Like in many cases, I would super agree. It's just sometimes like,
if I can finish my what I'm saying.
Sure.
Is okay. So there's this. So you're bound by your paradigm. The only way you can change that is by changing the way you think. And well, the first thing you have to do is become, first of all, aware of what you're thinking. Yeah, and then number two, well, you're probably likely to start judging yourself. Yeah, oh, I shouldn't think that. Or right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what people do. But that holds you back too, because then you're not open anymore for new ideas. You're more like closing yourself. So to become open to new ideas, how do you do that? Well, you learn new techniques. You learn something new. So what you do, for example, okay, you know this fuseki, you know this joseki, you know these techniques. Now let me introduce you to a new fuseki. Okay, so the new fuseki, and it has this and this and this as advantages, and these are the disadvantages. And well, try to play the next 10 games with this fuseki. And it doesn't matter whether you win or whether you lose.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It's just the only important thing is, can you apply these new rules, this new way of thinking?
Yes.
And if you can do that, then you have success.
Yes.
And and the next step, yeah, of course, you in the end you want to win.
Yeah.
But that's the first step to break through this paradigm.
Yeah.
So that's,
I very strongly agree with that.
Yeah. So I think the same applies to what you just said. That this introspection in itself is not good enough. You have to use these certain rules. And well, yeah, you use the rules of poker for that. And it's basically exactly the same thing. You don't care about the end result. Care about if you did what you thought were your new rules, the way you wanted to play.
Yes, and
that's much more important.
Yes, it's to me, this is basically also the type of personality question that I think should come up much more often in the Go sphere, and maybe also in other games.
Oh yes. So
because like usually the
Sakata, he told me, he looked at one of my games, at one game.
Yeah.
He looked at one game and he said, "Oh, I was teaching at his salon, at his Go club. I was teaching and I played a very violent move, and everybody talked about it in the game, the Go. And he said, 'Show me this game,' and I showed the game. And he said, 'This is the move.' I said, 'Yes, this is terrific, very good idea, very very strong move, but it's wrong.' And I said, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, you won your game. Okay, I get that, and maybe because of this move, I get that. But," he said, "you would have lost the game to a stronger person, to somebody you can read better." because you always play the sharpest move. But you cannot see the consequences of this sharp move. And if you play the sharpest move all the time, you can see the consequences. It's quite possible that everything will go wrong after that, and there's no way you can change it anymore. So, that it's much better to know what the the about right move is, the 80% move, and just play the 80% move. If you play the 80% move consistently, you will win almost all of your games. So that's the one and only lesson Sakata gave me.
Fair enough. I think it really depends on what type of person you are. Like I would basically.
Yeah.
So
okay, wait.
Sure.
So then after that, there was this professional. What's his name again? Who came to the European Champion Go Congress all the time? Japanese professional. Well, older guy. And I can never remember his name.
Hayashi
but he retired
Kozo?
in.
Hayashi Kozo?
No, not that guy. He's
Before
young.
him.
Yeah, before him.
Yeah. I heard about him.
Adon
I
professional. Adon professional.
I never saw him, I think. So.
Okay. Yeah, he came to the Go Congress every year, basically. And okay, so I think he saw a game of mine 10 years before that. And then 10 years later, he saw another game of mine. And he said, your next move was there. And I said, huh? How did you know? He said, well, because you always play that kind of move. Of course, I felt very bad. I felt like,
I found out.
Yeah, he caught me. He caught me.
Yeah.
Red-handed.
Yeah.
So I didn't. I said, yeah, well, don't feel bad about it. But I mean, you just have this style. And he said, there's almost nobody who can change his style. In the past, there have been a few professionals who, after having become professional once they're like 4 or 5 done professional, after that, they can never change their style. There's maybe 1 or 2 cases where it happened and they could have success. For example, Kato Masao, he used to be the big killer, the killer was called, because he killed huge groups.
Yeah.
And then later, he was able to re-educate himself and become a good endgame player. And win games in the end.
Nice.
By playing better endgame. So, this is style, personality, character. It's difficult to change.
For sure, but it's the same thing with earlier that knowing your strengths and weaknesses is very beneficial to be able to improve. And then I think what also people underestimate a lot, like they take singular games much too important, like the winning or losing. And what's usually much more beneficial is to what you're basically proposing in the last statement before that, to sometimes just try out different stuff that is unfamiliar to you. Even if it's gonna make you lose much more likely, because it's gonna train you in adopting different styles, and that's very important for winning in the long run.
Yep.
And maybe also becoming successful as a person in the long run. That would be my hypothesis.
This is getting too much, Oh. Okay, I'm going to send you a link.
Sure.
Okay, this is a link of a YouTube.
Then maybe I will incorporate that in the video.
And it's about a game. It's a game by a guy called Ryush Kun. Well, that's his name in Japanese anyway.
Yeah.
And he plays Go 10-second move games all the time. And he talks while he's playing.
Yeah.
He explains what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Right? During the game. This very
Nice.
It's like 10 seconds every 10 seconds per move. So
yeah.
This one is 30 minutes, so 31 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like 40 minutes, including the commentary. So the game itself is like 30 minutes. And the internet connection is unstable, it says. Okay. We're back here. Okay. So, and he talks about his feelings all the time. And then he says, okay, well, last time we tried this, let's try this move now.
Yeah.
Right? He said this. So he is like, by the way, he's a deshi, uchi deshi, just like Michael Redmond. Also a pupil of Oeda's. And maybe I saw him there, but probably not because he was too young. So maybe he was there already. So he was a top professional in Japan.
Yeah.
Not anymore, but at that time he had some small minor titles like Tengen, I think, and maybe Judan. And he is the guy who played Odyssey for the Kisei title match. And in the last game, or the pre-last game, he, while filling in the dames, he didn't, he thought, okay, the game is over, fill in the dames, and then Odyssey put him into Atari, and well, he played somewhere else. He just, because they were filling the dames.
Yeah.
So, you're not, and then Odyssey just took the stones and won the game because of that. Otherwise, he would have lost by 1.5 points, I think. But now he won, and he got the title. And of course, the Ryusuke was extremely upset. This became a big thing. But in the end, he lost there was a panel of a jury panel, and well, he lost, and so he lost the title.
Yeah.
And about 300,000 euro or something. So yeah, that was a big deal. But he never recovered from that. And there was another incident. He went to China, and I was sitting next to him on the plane, going to China to. And so he was married at the time, by the way. And so he wanted to know how European girls were, how foreign girls were. Right? But I only had experience with Japanese girls at the time. Because, so, well, I didn't, well, not completely, but,
yeah. I get the point.
More or less.
Yeah.
And so, I said, it's just like, you just have to try, That's all you can say. Oh, well, can you introduce me to one of these the women I said, well, that's not how it works in the Western world. But and you're a Go player. Probably you need somebody who understands Go at least.
Yeah.
And said, yeah, that's true. So I said, I don't know any foreign girl in Japan who plays Go. So, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. So in the end, well, he got married to a Japanese piano teacher. So quite different. But anyway, he sat next to me on the plane, and then we got there, and then this is the tournament where this big problem happened. Is Kobayashi Satoru accidentally hitting him with a glass in his face, right? Yeah, and he got a big gash on his, and well, we were all drinking. There were 6 or so of us. We were all drinking, and the good guys, they had already gone to bed. We were the bad guys. Of course, the next day
I was
we
already
didn't have to play.
sleeping.
We did, yeah. We were, yeah,
I-
you weren't even born, man. Oh well.
Yes. I was basically
Okay, you were
sleeping.
born. You were born. You were
I'm
born.
telling the truth here.
Yeah, it's like 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago.
Hmm.
1998.
Maybe
or
around the time I was born.
something like that. Yeah, and yeah, the world actually existed before you were born. Do you know that? You know, it's hard to wrap your mind around it.
I don't believe
Never mind.
that. I think that's a
Yeah, of
lie.
course.
That's like a conspiracy
It's
that people made up. So,
the
but yeah, go
Matrix,
on,
man.
go
The
on.
Matrix. Okay. Anyway, we were all drunk. They were extremely drunk, and then that's when the incident happened. And I mean, they were not doing. They didn't know exactly what they were doing, and they were just gesturing, and and then Kobayashi had his glass in his hand, and he was gesturing, and then bam against his cheek, and then there was blood all over the place, man. It was just pretty horrible. It was, and Yushkun was crying. Wow, what's going on? And I mean, it was just horrible.
Wow, sounds crazy.
And then Yamashita Keigo, he was there too, and he hadn't drank a drop. I think he didn't drink any alcohol. He took Ryushikun to a hospital.
Nice.
And Kobayashi was completely he went crazy for a moment, and he ran back to his room, and he didn't know what to do. He was in a panic, and so I ran after him, and I told him, well, at least we have to say something to the hotel. There's blood everywhere. We have to. No, I can't. I'm ashamed. I can't. Well, Then, I went downstairs, and I said there was an accident and whatever. It was a big shock. And then it was in all the newspapers the next day, in the Chinese newspapers, and we got a call from the Neon King saying, "What the hell were you doing in China? You're making fools out of the Neon King." All right, it's just embarrassing for us. You're embarrassing us. What the hell were you doing? And then, when we came back to
how was his injury? Like, was it really serious, or did he recover fast? Or
he recovered. I mean, he's a strong guy. He was a strong guy, but he had this gush and a scar.
Yeah.
For years, you could really see it. Now you can barely see it.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was a big deal, man.
So you were also sitting there, basically, like immediately?
I was 1 meter away.
Yeah,
They were 1 meter away.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not telling you the exact story, the 100% story. One time I will write exactly what happened.
Sure.
But
it was basically not on purpose. Like Kobayashi didn't try to kill him. It was just
no.
Okay, that's good. What was the moral of the story? Like, did you want to get somewhere, like to link that together with what?
Not. Absolutely not. I mean,
Okay.
yes. because Ryu's Kun, I think those two incidents,
Sure.
like that he lost the Kisei
Mhm.
and now this problem. I mean, I think he never recovered from those two things.
Yeah.
And he never captured a big title anymore. So,
Yeah, I think,
your mentality is very, very important.
yeah,
And we
for
talked
sure.
about it before. So, yeah.
Especially for top athletes, right? Like if you like this kind of stuff can really hurt your motivation, and
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's kind of creating resentment maybe or whatever, in his case, I don't know, but like definitely for me sometimes during my growth period, I had moments where I lost a lot of games in a very tragic manner or
Yeah.
unlucky or whatever you want to call it, right? And that created for me a lot of resentment where I was like, I'm playing
Resentment.
so well and then I'm in these good positions
Oh,
and then
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
lose.
Yeah.
And that
Okay.
actually
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
demotivated me to study harder, because I was like,
Yeah.
the world is an unfair place and it's not worthy
Uh,
of me trying
For,
hard, and that's
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
course the
Hmm.
path to hell, right? Like that's
Yeah, yeah. That's horrible. If you start thinking that doesn't work.
yeah.
Mm.
Like so it basically means that no matter how dire the situation and no matter what type of like really difficult situations are thrown your way, you gotta try finding that spark inside you that will drive you forward regardless, right? And yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I think that's what you're doing now, right? Like you had a tough time in Japan and now you're back in Europe. So let's maybe wrap it up with like some like what are the most important things you've learned in the last few years? Like what has been like the 4 or 5 years or something that you've been in Europe again? What has that been like, and what have you learned, or what is the most important thing for you to incorporate in your mindset and stuff like that in the last few years to become a wise old man for the future?
Wise. Okay. Ah, man.
Allegedly,
How
allegedly,
can I,
according to you.
how can I live up to this? These assumptions. Okay. Well, one thing is, of course, that I mean, I see all these young players, and sometimes they play very well, and sometimes they play like shit. Excuse my French again. You know, um, it's but they can accept it. You know,
Mhm.
um, it's and I can see them that they're mentally, they're not quite there yet, and it's quite possible that they will not break through consistently. So they have a couple of successes, and then they think they really have that power, that strength. But there's much more going on. You need that mental part as well, not just the technique or this one game or this one tournament or a couple of tournaments, beating a professional even. You know, you need much more than that.
Yeah.
So I was the first European to beat professionals in actual games, in professional tournaments.
Hmm.
So I was in two separate tournaments in Korea.
Nice.
I played a 6 dan and I beat him, and then I played a 7 dan and I beat him. And how I beat them was very interestingly. I had just bought a book by Lee Chang-ho,
Hmm.
and with a very complicated joseki.
Hmm.
And this is the joseki I played, right? And against these Koreans, right?
Yeah.
And they had no idea. They
Hmm.
had no idea about the. It was very complicated, and they just made me messed up. They didn't know how the joseki.
Nice.
So yeah, so this was kind of interesting, and I got interviewed by newspapers and so on.
Yeah.
Uh, so this was when I was at my best. So I became European champion when I was 19,
Mm-hmm.
1981, and I think I was at my best in 97 or 98, around that time. And it
Yeah.
was about 3 dan, 4 dan professional, that level.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you go up and down. And now I'm probably, well, I'm about 130 points, rating points lower, 120 or 130 rating points lower than I was at my top. And yeah, I mean, you have to live with that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of painful sometimes, you know,
Sure.
because I know I can, all of you guys, I can just easily have you,
Sure.
well, 20 years ago.
Sure.
Maybe.
You're allowed
Maybe.
to believe that.
Yeah, sure. And that's my narrative, I keep in my mind. I can get to all of you guys. But the thing is that it goes up and down, and you just have to live with, okay, so you lost. Okay, well, next time you just play another game.
Yes.
And that maybe the result is not the only thing that you should look for. The process of playing a game, that you can just enjoy playing a game and enjoying playing a game with another person,
Yeah.
right? And that you that you this is your together. You make this game,
Yes.
and you test each other. You have fun doing that. You try to be cleverer than the other guy. He tries to be cleverer than you, and
Yes.
you can have fun that way together. If
Yes.
you understand, if you want that, if you like that, if you are willing to let go of your ego, because quite often, you let your ego get the better of you, and you get angry, frustrated with yourself or with the other person,
Which usually is like the same thing.
yeah, same thing,
Hmm.
And I've seen it in young guys, and then they do very well, then they make a mistake, and they completely discuss it with themselves and lose.
Yeah.
Or they are at the top. I made a mistake, and they took advantage of that. They thought, oh, I'm so clever, ha, right? But it's me who made a mistake.
Sure.
They did nothing clever. I just made a really big mistake. Okay, and then I catch up again, and then finally I win, and they are so angry with themselves, right? Because they had won. They had won a game. But this game, it was finished. It's gone. They had it. No, that's not how it works. It's like a marathon.
Yes.
You just keep going and you check your personal feelings. How are you doing? What's going on? How are you looking at the game? Do you think you're winning? And how do you deal with that feeling?
Yes.
Are you making emotional moves because you think you can kill him? Or is he making emotional moves? What is going on? All these things, you have to check that all the time. And that's a very interesting game in itself, of course.
Yes.
And I think I learned a lot from Go, because I can, it's a kind of an abstract way of doing it.
Yes.
And it's something you can actually check because you can see the result.
Yeah.
So that's why Go for me is a very interesting and important part of my life. And I hope it will always be that way.
That's nice, man.
But another thing I noticed is last year I became Dutch champion again. Right?
Congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you. Oh no, actually it was last year.
2 years ago.
Last year. No, last year.
Last year, 2020?
2020.
Okay.
Because just after that, the Corona crisis happened.
Oh, okay.
So there's no Dutch championship for this year has been held yet.
Hmm.
So I'm still the reigning Dutch champion. You know,
Yeah.
I've been the longest reigning since champion for a year. You know, because it's more than a year. Anyway, it's crazy that I became Dutch champion, and the 2 years before that, I became Dutch champion too. Right? It's kind of crazy that at my age I can become Dutch champion. What's happening with the young generation in the Netherlands anyway? There's Alexander Eerbeek.
Yes.
He is the younger generation, but he has an abundance of talent. He's much more talented than I am. Everybody says so, but anyway, no, he really has a lot of talent, but
sure.
he doesn't. In the international scene, he's not doing much. In the Dutch, on a national level, he's doing okay. I think he became a Dutch champion once or twice, maybe.
Yes.
And he's always in the top, but he couldn't beat me because I was more tricky, let's say. I tricked him, basically.
Basically,
I
you
set
were
up a trick.
lucky. Incredibly.
No. I set up a trick, and well, it was not a bad move, but it's like the Tsuji one. You play 1, 2, 3, but then you don't play the 1 and 2. You don't make that exchange. You play 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, but then a more sophisticated version of that I did. And so he thought, oh, he's playing the wrong order or something. But I had an obscure center move somewhere that he hadn't really thought of. And so I could trick him a little bit, and I got a bit of an extra advantage. So, but it's crazy that that there are not enough young kids to take over and to become champion. And so, it's easier than ever before to become a strong Go player. You can get AI training. There's all the knowledge is on the internet. There are lots of strong Go players in Europe. You get all the training from these professionals, these strong amateurs. So there's no reason.
I also hear
not
that there's people like Jonas Welticke streaming. So.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, he's doing that too. And there are other people too. I don't remember if their names, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're there supposedly. But yeah, so they should look at your stream and check and get stronger. And I hope that this talk can help a little bit with that as well. So I really encourage people, young people, to do their best, to listen, to get all the information, get good training, to get good lessons, and go for it.
I think the other thing, though, is that basically we have all the more options to become better, and we also have all the more options to distract ourselves. So, like, one could also make the counter argument that back in your days, you didn't have Netflix, so obviously you became good at Go.
Netflix. Yeah, that is a good point, and this is the reason why Katalin probably started playing Go, because he was from Romania, from a village in the mountains. There was nothing else to do, so there are like 3 or 4 of his guys from his village who became real strong Go players. Statistically, how come that all these strong Go players were accidentally born in the same village?
Yeah.
Statistically, it doesn't make sense, right? So, yeah, you're right. And so the reason was probably because there were no distractions.
Yeah.
So,
but obviously, one should take away the counter idea, which is try to try to create an atmosphere in your and an environment in your life where you are the least distracted from the goals that are actually worthwhile and valuable to you. Like, I think so many people, they don't articulate their values enough so that they know what to aim for and what to let go of and what distractions to put away, right? And I think that's very important. And then when you do that, then obviously we are so advantaged today to become good at Go or anything and to be able to create any life we want. And yeah. But if you watch too much Netflix, then that's gonna be difficult. Yeah. Okay, man. I think
that's our demon. That's our demon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think with the whole other stuff about life philosophy, I think we should put that aside for another day, another time. I think this is a good spot to end on, to tell people, hey,
there's nothing else I can talk about. I mean,
yeah,
I said everything I have to say, man.
Yeah, this is basically all of life, right? Encapsulated and like
that's it. Yep.
That's true.
But maybe some other day I find something else to talk about.
Yeah, maybe some kind of enlightenment, that creates like all these new thoughts you'd never think about talking about, and then it's like, oh, okay, Jonas.
Yeah.
Here I am again.
Yeah.
Because I actually still have to talk to you about some books that you gave me, which is How to Be Alone and like Dancing in the Rain, and we have to talk about all our political differences and all the discussions we had and the things we learned from each other. There's still a lot of interesting ground to cover, I think.
It sounds horrible.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. But I really liked hearing about your story in Japan. I think it's very interesting to just think about different cultures and maybe also give people perspective about, in your case, maybe a lot of negatives as well. But obviously, we are both very well aware that there's of course also much beauty in Japan, but maybe for some people who think about like living there, they should definitely think about also how much they are adapted to the kind of difficulties one can encounter, and at least be aware of that. So I think that might be very helpful. Yeah, to get a glimpse of your life and your life story so far. And thank you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jonas. And well, anytime you are in Japan, in Amsterdam, just drop by.
For sure, man. For sure. I'd love to. Okay, so for the rest of you,
yeah, and I hope to meet you again in real life. It would be great. Yeah, I mean, when it's gonna be?
I think the last game I won. No, I think the last game I won. If it was,
you're not talking about you don't want to talk about the 5 games before that.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the 5 games before that. Please be quiet.
Okay. It's gonna be hard. Okay. Hey.
Anyway, man.
Care.
Thank you. Take care. And for all the rest of you, do something courageous today. Think of how you can increase the love you have for your own life, or do whatever you want